The story takes place in a regular school, and inside the cafeteria. We find the MC sleeping until his friend arrives with 2 trays. The chubby friend tries to wake the guy up, saying he brought his lunch. He thinks Gavin is exhausted from staying up late talking to a girl. Slowly waking up, our MC wonders where that great smell is coming from. Then he realizes the smell is coming from the food in front of him. Gavin immediately gets excited and lets out a shout, and then starts staring at the food with shining eyes. Without thinking twice, the boy starts devouring everything like a wild animal, and his worried friend asks him to eat slower so he will not choke. But it was too late, and the MC also devours his friend's food. After filling his belly, he feels relieved and says he finally came back. He cannot believe he actually reincarnated. And his classmate asks if he was a starving ghost since he even ate his share. Gavin then confirms that he actually reincarnated from a starving ghost. He was in a freezing apocalypse and ended up perishing from starvation there. The chubby friend does not understand anything and thinks he got like this because his girlfriend dumped him. Then the MC puts his hand on his classmate's shoulder and says he is glad he is still breathing because now they can start over. Yahello gets startled by Gavin's words and says of course he is breathing. The MC then asks the date and his friend answers that it is August 8th, 2024. Gavin reveals that in half a month, the world will enter an ice age with temperatures of -50 degrees. But Yahello thinks that is ridiculous and offers help if his friend is in trouble. The MC says he needs help, and the chubby friend says he can count on him. At that moment, Gavin asks to borrow 1 billion, and his classmate almost spits his drink. Yahello, in disbelief at that absurd request, asks if he is serious, and our boy confirms. The MC's friend refuses right away and says that not even if he sold his own father would he get that kind of cash. With no shame at all, Gavin asks for how much he would sell his father, and he answers 500 million. But after realizing what he just said, he gets mad at our boy. Suddenly a couple appears, and the guy invites the girl to a private room. Our MC then looks at them with a serious face, and the blonde guy says that after dinner, they will go to a private theater. The chubby friend gets irritated and warns that she is the MC's girlfriend and she is cheating on him with another guy. With that, the couple walks in front of the two of them, and the embarrassed girl asks what her boyfriend is doing there. Yahello defends his friend and throws in the redhead's face how ungrateful she is. But the girl does not even care and says she will not explain anything since it is all obvious. At that, the MC remembers that in the apocalypse, the blonde guy abandoned her and he took her in and took care of her like a goddess, but the ungrateful girl betrayed him, and his demise was her fault. Yahello wants to leave, but Gavin calmly says there is no need to rush. The chubby friend does not understand and says just looking at her makes him sick. The blonde guy takes the chance to mock him, calling him a simp who follows Xenia around. Then the redhead humiliates our MC, saying he used to harass her and that she finds him disgusting. Gavin asks if she is done with her little show. The blonde guy scoffs, asking if Gavin is going to try to use his simp ways to win the girl back. Yahello tries to get his friend out of there, but he asks for just 5 more minutes. The chubby friend gets desperate and does not understand why his friend insists on that girl. Zach finds it funny and says he would love to see what he can do in 5 minutes. Without thinking twice, the MC slaps him in the face. The redhead is shocked and gets worried about her new boyfriend. Everyone in the place drops their jaws. Furious, Zach asks how he dares to strike him. The rich kid then goes after the MC, shouting that he will finish him, but Gavin is faster and lands a kick on him. Yahello gets all excited about his friend's attitude, and the girl runs to help her boyfriend fallen on the ground. Then, she threatens her ex, saying he is finished for laying a hand on the dragon group's heir. Zach then gets up and says he is a Taekwondo black belt and refuses to lose to a brat like him, but our MC counters with an uppercut and calls him trash. Gavin thinks that the apocalypse was a disaster, but it also taught him how to fight. At that, the chubby friend asks since when his friend got so tough. The traitor gets furious at the MC and yells that he will regret this, and even has the audacity to order Gavin to kneel and apologize. Out of patience, Gavin slaps her in the face and asks who she thinks she is. Zach gets up full of hate and promises he will crush the MC like an ant. Gavin then knees him in the stomach and takes something out of the guy's coat and shows a spray he took from his pocket. Zach panics and tells him to give it back. The MC asks how many girls he has harmed using that spray. Zach plays dumb and tries to take the object back, but Gavin is faster and sprays it in his face. The blonde guy starts screaming in pain, and Xenia does not understand anything. Desperate, Zach tells the girl to get away and stay far from him. The spray then starts to take effect, and he goes after the girl completely out of his mind, and then starts tearing her dress in front of everyone. Desperate, Xenia tries to cover herself and says they are in public. But Zach continues his attack and the girl cries for help. The MC announces that the 5 minutes are up and the chubby friend is shocked by the scene. Gavin explains that it was a potent aphrodisiac that the rich kid used on his victims. Yanuel worries that Zach might call the police, but the MC tells him not to worry, because being the heir of the dragon group, he is proud and will want to get payback personally. The chubby friend understands the logic and agrees that Zach will want to handle this secretly. Leaving the cafeteria behind, Yanuel asks what their next destination is, and the MC says they are going to sell the house. And wasting no time, the two head straight to a real estate agency. The chubby friend says that is his parents' only inheritance, but Gavin is determined to sell. With 3 million, he needs to stock up on as many supplies as possible for the apocalypse. Yanuel does not understand the rush since housing prices are going up, but the MC ignores it and calls him to their next stop, because now it is time to spend the cash. And their destination is a giant supermarket. Arriving there, he immediately asks for 1,000 packages of rice, flour, and oil. And to top it off, he also orders 10,000 cans of canned food. The employee is shocked by the order and asks if he is sure. Gavin confirms, and the chubby friend asks if he is setting up a grocery store. The MC asks if they deliver, and the employee says they will take care of everything. Then our boy remembers that Yanuel's family has a warehouse, and asks to borrow the warehouse, saying he is still going to buy more things. 2 girls from the same class see him and start gossiping about the betrayal. Ignoring them, Gavin goes to the electronics section and places more orders. He thinks that in the apocalypse, entertainment will be essential to pass the time. The employee gets super happy and calls him the biggest customer of the year. The girls are shocked by the cash spent and wonder how he has so much money. The MC then continues his shopping and asks to pack more winter coats. The purple-haired one gets suspicious and asks if he is really poor since he has already spent 1 million. They then conclude he is a rich kid in disguise and decide to go talk to him. The MC thinks he is ready for the apocalypse as the two approach. One of them greets him all friendly, and they come with some small talk and compliment our MC's looks, faking interest. He remembers that in the past, these two were thugs who mugged him in the cold. The girl then invites him to grab something to eat. To their surprise, he accepts and asks Yanuel to take the groceries to the warehouse. The gold diggers celebrate and are already planning to take their sugar daddy to an expensive restaurant. The MC then goes with them saying he is starving. The trio then arrives at a fancy building. They show the place around and comment on how it is a very expensive luxury restaurant. Once inside, one of them asks what he thinks of the food. Looking at the menu, the MC pretends he is finding everything too pricey. The girls do not care about the price and say they will order if he does not want to. Then the one with glasses orders several expensive dishes like caviar, lobster, and prime beef. An hour later, the purple-haired one was satisfied with the feast, and then asks how the food was, and he says he is going to step out for a bit. Gavin then goes straight to the restaurant's front desk, and the hostess informs him the bill came to 18,000, but he ignores her and asks them to prepare 100 tables with the same dishes to pick up in 10 days. The hostess is shocked by the giant order and asks if he is sure. Gavin then offers his VIP card and says he can pay everything up front. He thinks he got sick of canned food in the apocalypse and wants to guarantee good meals. The gold diggers think he is cheap but sensible for going to pay the bill and are already planning to ask for some expensive bags later. The hostess confirms the order but says there is still the bill for their table. However, he takes the card back and says they can pay their own bill. He thinks he spent almost all the money and now needs to take out some loans. And without wasting time, he starts searching for some apps on his phone. He then celebrates getting almost 3 million in loans, but he still wants more. Suddenly his phone rings, and it is one of the gold digger girls calling. The irritated girl asks where he went, and the MC says something came up and he is already heading home, and asks why he should pay the bill. The girl explodes in anger and says he was the one who invited them to eat. But our boy snaps back, saying they were the ones who dragged him there and ordered everything. They panic over the incredibly expensive bill and do not know what to do. But he reminds them that he warned them about the price, and they insisted on the most expensive dishes. Furious, the scammer calls him a broke loser and says he is a disgrace. Then, to prove he has money, Gavin tells her to ask the hostess about the order of 100 tables, and the hostess confirms the order. With the confirmation, the girl begs him to come back and pay the bill. But the MC hangs up on her and says he is not going to spoil some fools. With no money to pay the bill, the two start panicking and the hostess pressures them. The purple-haired one decides to call a guy named Hunter to teach the MC a lesson. After leaving the restaurant, Gavin stops in front of a lottery shop. He remembers that in his past life, he won the lottery with 5 numbers. With the ticket in hand, he gets excited, because he only has to wait 2 days for the result. With that, the MC returns to the warehouse where his friend is waiting. The chubby friend complains that he was abandoned, but his friend promises to take him out to have some fun. Yahello still does not understand the reason for spending so much money on supplies. Gavin explains that all of that will save lives in the apocalypse and asks him to trust him. His friend says he does not believe any of that because it sounds crazy, but the MC guarantees that in a few days he will believe everything. Suddenly, a group of thugs appears and asks for Gavin Clark. The young man confirms and asks if they are Hunter's goons. A bald guy with a baseball bat accuses him of messing with the boss's woman. The chubby friend gets scared and threatens to call the police if they try anything, but the thug scoffs and says he will break their legs before the cops arrive. But the MC says with a smile that there is no need to call the police. The bald guy mocks him, calling him a coward and saying it would be useless anyway. The chubby friend tries to protect the young man by using his father's name, but the thug says their target is only Gavin and they will not touch the rich kid. Desperate, the friend tells the MC to run while he tries to hold the guys off. One of the goons shoves the chubby friend, and the bald guy attacks with the baseball bat. Yahello shouts his friend's name, terrified. However, our hero dodges easily and says the attack was too slow. Then he counters with a kick right in the middle of the stomach, leaving the bald guy completely wrecked. Then Gavin picks up the bat from the ground and hits him with full force. With the thug on the ground, the MC shoves the bat in his mouth. Seeing that scene, the other goons are shocked by the MC's strength. He then turns to the thugs and challenges all of them to come at him at once. The blonde guy gets irritated and orders his men to attack the MC. Our boy then takes down all the goons by himself. The chubby friend is left with his mouth wide open, not believing that is the same Gavin. With all the enemies on the ground, the MC asks if they have had enough, but Gavin demands 100,000 from each of them as compensation, and the thug says that is extortion. Gavin then hits him with the baseball bat, and then threatens to break everyone's legs if they do not pay up right away. With that, he gets 600,000 from the thugs, and thinks that he is not a cruel person, but the apocalypse changed his mindset. Then he says he's going to take his friend to the exciting place he promised. And they arrive at a club full of women dancing. The rascal seems to have liked it a lot and thanks the MC for calming his nerves. Gavin goes to the bar and says he is looking for the boss to make a delivery. They are then taken to a hallway full of security guards. The friend gets scared and asks what kind of excitement that is, and what they are doing in that weird place. The guards start greeting their boss and call him Mr. Lowe. The boss then asks what the boys are doing there. With a smile, the MC introduces himself and says he heard the old man was receiving some goods. Then Mr. Lowe finds it weird that they are empty-handed and asks where the products are. Gavin points to himself and says they are the goods, leaving the old man interested. But the conversation ends, and the big boss orders his armed goons to capture the duo. With weapons pointed at them, the chubby friend panics and tries to use his father's name to get out of there, and desperately asks what kind of delivery this is, and Gavin reveals the guy traffics human organs. Hearing this, the chubby friend totally freaks out and yells that there is no way not to panic with that news. The MC then challenges the big boss and asks if he is afraid to close a deal. With that, he makes his offer of 10 million for all the organs in his body, but the old man only offers 5 million, saying the market is down at the moment. The MC accepts on the condition of getting the cash first and delivering the body in 3 days. Satisfied, the big boss orders a goon to bring the contracts for the two to sign. But they only bring one contract, and Gavin points to his friend, and the chubby friend yells that he is not selling anything. But the MC insists that his friend is indeed selling, making him more desperate. One of the goons then forces the chubby friend to sign the contract at gunpoint. Already outside, the outraged friend asks if the MC is human for having sold him. He tries to calm his friend down, and the chubby friend reminds him that this low guy is a dangerous gang boss. Gavin gets serious and says that in 3 days, the trafficking boss will meet his end. The friend does not believe it, but the MC invites him to watch the apocalypse arrive. They go to a mansion, and the MC says he wants to rent the property. The realtor confirms if it is just that mansion, and he says yes. The friend does not understand why rent a mansion now, but Gavin says there is something good there. He remembers that that mansion was where he perished in his past life. Determined, he declares that his new life will start in the exact same place where the old one ended. The realtor informs him that the owner does not want to rent, but the young man offers double the price. Even with the offer of 5 times the rent, the lady says it is not a matter of money. Not giving up, the MC offers 10 times the amount in upfront payment. The realtor changes her mind right away and promises to convince the owner no matter what. The MC says his only condition is to be able to fully renovate the entire house. In the hallway, they see the young man's ex-girlfriend with her mother, who encourages her to win Zach over. The friend wonders what Xenia is doing there, and Gavin reveals Zach has a mansion nearby. The redhead notices her ex's presence and makes a disgusted face. She accuses him of stalking and says she still has not settled the score from last time. The girl's mother butts in and humiliates the MC, calling him poor and futureless. The chubby friend defends his buddy, and the woman flips out, threatening to get him expelled from school. Gavin mocks her exaggerated reaction and asks what she has to do with his rental. The ex-girlfriend doubts he has money for the rent, which costs at least $20,000. The realtor returns and informs them that the rent was settled at $25,000 a month. The girl's mother is shocked to learn that the poor guy actually rented the mansion. The redhead thinks he did all that to be near her and tells him to give up. The MC and his friend cannot believe the girl's level of delusion. Her mother says $25,000 is nothing and drags her away. The realtor reminds him that the first month's rent will be $250,000 and he agrees to pay on the spot. The mother and daughter are in shock at his offer, and the redhead thinks it is all an act. The MC shows the transfer receipt for $250,000 on his phone. The realtor hands over the keys to the mansion and says he can renovate it however he likes. The girl's mother wonders if she misjudged the young man and if he is also from a wealthy family. The MC asks his friend if he knows the boss of the city's biggest renovation company. He asks his friend to set up a meeting, and the chubby friend does not understand the plan to renovate a rented house. Gavin tells him to stop asking questions and set up the meeting, and he will understand everything tonight. The friend manages to set up the meeting using his father's influence, and the MC thanks him. He promises to send a truckload of instant noodles as a thank you, and his friend complains. The young man guarantees his father will love the gift and will even praise him. They arrive at the renovation company, and the receptionist asks them to wait for the boss. Coincidentally, the ex-girlfriend and her mother are also there for a renovation paid by Zach. The redhead asks if the two have an appointment and notices they are there. She once again accuses the MC of stalking and tells him to keep dreaming if he thinks he will win her over. The young man is sick of running into the two of them and wonders why they bump into these idiots again. The chubby friend tries to explain that Gavin is also there to renovate, but the redhead mocks him. The MC introduces himself to the receptionist and says he has an appointment. The mother and daughter doubt he is really there for a renovation and think he is just showing off. The boss of the company arrives and asks who he has the meeting with. The receptionist points to the MC's group, but the two gold diggers butt in. The girl's mother gets all happy and thinks Zach's influence made the boss come personally. She takes the chance to humiliate the MC, saying her daughter is received by the boss while he waits. The redhead goes all confident to greet Mr. Zhao, introducing herself. The boss gets confused and asks if she made an appointment with him. The girl gets worked up and says yes, but the man does not seem to recognize her. He asks if her name is Gavin Clark, and she answers that she is Xenia. Mr. Zhao pushes her aside and tells her not to butt in if she is not Gavin. The MC introduces himself and the company boss recognizes him immediately. Surprised that he is so young, the boss invites him to talk in private. The girl's mother is left clueless, and the redhead thinks it is all because of the rich friend's family. They enter the manager's office to discuss the renovation details. Mr. Zhao asks what his young friend Gavin wishes to renovate. The MC says he wants to renovate a mansion. The boss explains that a mansion renovation is a small job and passes it to a director. But Gavin insists that Mr. Zhao handle the project personally. The man says he is busy and only takes on large projects personally. The young man claims his is a large project, and the boss asks what the budget is. The MC then says the budget is at least $30 million. Mr. Zhao is shocked by the amount and can barely believe what he heard. He asks if the young man is sure it is $30 million and not 3. The MC confirms the value. And a director enters the room excited to help with the project, but the boss dismisses him and says he will handle the project personally. Zhao asks what Gavin wants to do with so much money since with all that you can buy a new mansion. The MC hands over a roll of paper and says the project blueprints are right there. Upon seeing the drawings, Mr. Zhao gets startled and asks if he is building a bunker. Gavin says the budget can increase and that the only requirement is to finish in half a month. The boss says the project is complex and looks like a war bunker for the apocalypse. Gavin admits it is for the apocalypse and offers 20 million upfront. Mr. Zhao accepts the challenge and promises to mobilize all resources to finish on time. The chubby friend is shocked by the expense of 35 million and calls him crazy. The MC says money will be worthless soon, and his friend asks where the cash came from. He reveals he took 10 million in loans, and his friend hopes the apocalypse story is real. The ex-girlfriend reappears and asks mockingly how much he spent to get attention. The young man gets irritated and says it is none of her business and that he does not want to get anyone's attention. The girl's mother brags that her daughter spent 1 million and says that is real power. The chubby friend joins the conversation and reveals Gavin spent 35 million. The redhead and her mother burst out laughing and think it is a ridiculous joke. The MC challenges them, asking if they would call him daddy if it were true. The ex-girlfriend says he sold the house for 3 million and calls him a simp. The girl's mother takes the bet and says she will call him daddy if he really spent that much cash. An employee runs after the MC saying he forgot his contract. Taking the chance, the girl's mother grabs the paper to expose his lie. But looking at the amount on the contract, her expression changes and she is in shock. The redhead then scoffs and asks if the amount is so small it left her speechless. Pale-faced, the mother stammers and confirms that the amount is 35 million. Desperate, the woman accuses the young man of forging the contract just to show off, but the employee defends the document and says it was signed by the boss and is legal. The MC then collects on the bet and tells her to call him daddy, and the old woman refuses to honor the bet. Out of patience, Gavin slaps her in the face. The chubby friend cheers the attitude, and the MC calls him to leave the place. Xenia, furious with the humiliation, threatens her ex, saying he will pay dearly for this. Later, the two friends arrive at the mansion the MC rented for the apocalypse. Not understanding anything, the chubby friend asks why they came back and what his plan is. The MC then reveals he is finally going to prove the apocalypse is real. The chubby friend thinks his buddy is acting weird and is sure he has completely lost his mind. Outside, Yahello complains about the cold and says they have been waiting for 2 hours and nothing happened. But the MC looks at his phone and says it is almost time. Suddenly, a shooting star crosses the sky, and Gavin says it has finally arrived. Yahello does not understand anything and asks if that is just a regular shooting star. Gavin explains that the real apocalypse only comes in half a month, but there are signs like the cold and the stars. The chubby friend panics and says the shooting star is coming right at them. The MC thinks those stars grant abilities, and that is why his neighborhood became a base in the past. He remembers that this star fell on the mansion and was found by a thief in his past life. Desperate, Yahello yells for them to run because the star will hit them head on. But the MC gets ready and says that opportunity is his. His classmate tries to stop him and asks if he went crazy and wants to perish like that. Ignoring the warning, Gavin opens his arms and is hit head-on by the star's light. The chubby friend is terrified and thinks his buddy was crushed and that it is all over. But Gavin reemerges with an aura of power and says his physical attributes increased 5 times. He then turns to his friend and asks if he believes him now. Yahello, surprised, stammers and asks if his friend did not fade away. The MC replies that besides being alive, he gained an ability and is stronger. The chubby friend is not convinced and says he sees no difference and asks how he is stronger. To prove his point, Gavin puts his hand on his shoulder, and with just one hand, he lifts the chubby friend, who weighs over 200 pounds, with ease. The MC then asks one more time with a smile if his classmate believes him now. Yahello panics and cannot believe he was lifted so easily with one arm. Gavin then takes him to the edge of the roof, leaving the chubby friend terrified. With a scary look, the young man tells his friend to get ready to go down from there. Then he simply jumps off the 30-foot-high roof with his friend along. The two land without a single scratch. The chubby friend opens his eyes and is surprised to see he survived. Gavin asks again, and his friend gives in and says he believes everything after that jump. Meanwhile, at the mansion next door, the redhead's mother asks what her daughter is looking at through the window. The girl says she saw the star fall and complains it would be better if it had hit her ex. The redhead tells her mother that Zach will get payback on the MC as soon as he returns. At that moment, the mansion's doorbell rings. The mother answers the door all happy, and the blonde guy asks where his girlfriend is. The girl then appears all excited and waves to her boyfriend. The rich kid grabs her and says he missed her these past few days. The mother feels awkward, and the blonde guy gets irritated with her, telling the lady to leave. The redhead takes the chance to tell the news and reveals that Gavin moved into the neighborhood. Zach explodes in anger and asks how he dares to show up in front of him. The mother adds fuel to the fire and says the young man did it to be close to her daughter. Furious, the blonde guy grabs his phone and promises he will make the MC regret it. He then calls a guy named Biao, introducing himself as Zach. The scene cuts to a boxing club, and in the ring, one of the boxers was talking to the playboy. Zach offers $200,000 for the fighter to take care of someone for him. Biao accepts right away and says the job will be done in 2 hours. In the ring, the fighter says he has a job and needs to finish the fight quickly. The opponent gets irritated by the arrogance and calls him a cheeky rookie who is asking for a beating. But the boxer is faster and knocks out the champion with a single clean punch to the jaw. The crowd goes wild with the victory and cheers the fighter as the new king of boxing. Back at the mansion, the MC explains what the early stages of the Ice Age will be like. The chubby friend mourns the fate of humanity, and Gavin asks what he is going to do. Totally convinced, Yahello stands up and says he will do whatever his friend orders without questioning. The MC then jokes and tells him to go back home and sell his own father like he suggested. The classmate feels awkward and says his father would never believe an apocalypse story. Gavin explains that soon money will be worthless and only supplies will truly matter. With that, the chubby friend makes up his mind and says he will bankrupt the family even if his father punishes him for it. Suddenly, the MC notices someone approaching the house. He then tells his friend to be quiet, and the chubby friend asks, scared, "What is happening?" Gavin reveals the mansion is surrounded. In front of the house, the fighter Biao and his goons prepare to break down the door and invade. One of the goons was ready to hit the door with a giant sledgehammer, but just as he was about to hit it, the MC opens the door forcefully and knocks the poor guy out. Gavin and his friend appear and ask who those guys are. Biao is surprised and asks if he is a fighter for noticing their presence. The MC then recognizes him right away and calls him by his full name, Duan Hubiao. The boxer is surprised and asks where he knows him from. Gavin remembers that in the apocalypse, the fighter became a powerful ability user. Biao reveals Zach sent him and that he is going to break some of his bones. The MC then tells the goon to leave so he will not get hurt. Biao gets irritated by the boldness and charges at the MC, but Gavin dodges easily and says the strike was too slow. Surprised by the reflexes, the boxer tries another strike, but the MC takes advantage of the opening and lands a punch in his stomach. The other goons are shocked to see their boss knocked down. The fighter recovers from the blow and says something is wrong, while the MC asks if he gives up. But the boxer refuses to surrender and says no one in the world can make him submit. Out of patience, our hero lands a kick on his jaw. With Biao on the ground, Gavin asks if he has had enough. Even defeated, the boxer insists he will not surrender and does not believe he lost. The MC finds this interesting and offers a way to save his sister in exchange for a favor. Biao is shocked to hear that and asks how he knows about his sister's illness. Gavin reveals he knows about the terminal illness and that he fights to pay for her treatment. With new hope, Biao asks if he can really save his sister. Gavin says he is the only one who can save her and that it is up to him to believe it or not. Biao surrenders right away and says he believes him since he defeated him in combat and asks what mission he must fulfill. The mission is to go after Zach, give him a beating, and squeeze as much cash out of him as he can. Biao stays quiet without complaining, then calls his goons to follow him on the mission. The goon asks if the boss really believes the young man, and Biao says he is his only hope. At the other mansion, Zach thinks Gavin is already in the hospital and that it is time to have some fun. With that, he and Xenia enjoy a private moment in the bedroom, but suddenly a loud noise ruins the mood. The girl's mother gets irritated by the interruption and goes to see who is knocking on the door. Upon opening the door, the lady comes face to face with Biao and his men and asks who they are. Out of patience, the boxer shoves the woman aside and enters the house with his goons. The lady gets furious and yells at the intruders, asking if they have no manners. Biao, without patience, simply slaps the woman in the face. The couple comes downstairs and Zach asks Biao if the job was successfully completed. He then offers a card with the $200,000 payment for the dirty work, but instead of accepting it, the boxer lands a heavy punch in the rich kid's gut. Zach is shocked and asks why the hired goon is attacking him. Biao points to Zach and orders his men to go at him without mercy. They then start kicking the rich kid while he is down. Desperate, the playboy tries to threaten the fighter with the power of his wealthy family. With that, Biao raises his hand and tells his men to stop hitting. Thinking his threat worked, Zach brags and says the boxer made a mistake. Biao then reveals that his new boss ordered them to hang him up and continue the beating. Zach panics at the crazy order and calls the boxer a madman. While being dragged, the rich kid wonders who this boss is and if it could be Gavin. Hanging upside down, the playboy reveals his transfer limit is 10 million. Biao then demands that he transfer the 10 million immediately. At the mansion, the MC's classmate shows a message he received on his phone. It notifies him about a class training, but the MC refuses the invitation right away. But he changes his mind upon learning the location is near the New North City. He then confirms he is going, and his phone starts ringing right at that moment. It was Biao on the phone, letting him know he got the 10 million from Zach. Next, the scene shifts to the lottery shop. The MC remembers the ticket and says he needs to check the result to buy more supplies. But upon checking the ticket, the MC is shocked because he did not win the lottery. He thinks about the butterfly effect, but finds it impossible since nothing else has changed in the world. With that, he realizes he needs to find another way to get cash for the supplies. The next day, the students gather for the college practical training. Suddenly, the two gold diggers appear, and one of them asks how he dares to show up there. And Gavin asks why he would not dare show his face. The one with glasses demands an explanation and says they had to work for a month to pay the bill. Not caring, Gavin asks what he has to do with their problem. The girl then tries to seduce him and says they will do anything if he pays the debt. The purple-haired one plays along and offers a night with them in exchange for 20,000. But the MC turns the tables and asks to borrow 40,000 from the two gold diggers. The two get furious at the proposal. Then Yahello appears and the MC asks why his eyes are swollen. The classmate reveals it was from crying so much to convince his father about the apocalypse. The MC gets excited about his friend's tactic and asks if his plan worked. But his friend says the plan failed because his father ignored him for hours and then gave him a beating. Gavin then comforts him and tells him not to get discouraged, because even he took a while to believe the apocalypse. Suddenly, a professor appears and tells all the students to get on the bus for the training. Inside the bus, the MC sits next to his friend. The chubby friend then says he is thirsty and asks for water, but Gavin says he did not bring a bottle. Suddenly, the girl sitting next to our MC offers her bottle to him. Our boy thanks her and immediately hands the water to Yahello. The girl then consoles Gavin about the breakup with his ex and hopes he gets over it soon. The MC says he is not sad and that he is actually glad to have seen her true face. She says she heard Zenio was a scammer and offers him money, but Gavin refuses since he knows the girl's family does not have much. Seeing that scene, the chubby friend notices there is a vibe going on, but the MC tells him to shut his mouth. After a while, the bus finally arrives. The counselor then tells everyone to get off to announce each person's internship placement. He explains that the internships are divided into 3 floors and the first is the worst, and begins announcing the names of the students who will be on the 3rd floor. The 2 gold diggers celebrate that they got the best spot just as Hunter had promised, and one of them asks how they will keep their promise to him. They then look at the girl who helped our MC on the bus, and the purple-haired one says Quichuli is perfect because she is from the countryside, has no connections, and on top of that, she is pure. The counselor then continues the roll call and announces the names of the 2nd floor students. Yahello gets frustrated because their names were not called even for the 2nd group. With that, the professor announces that the remaining 3 are going to the 1st floor, the worst of all. Kuikui is disappointed and laments that they will not learn anything useful in that place. The other students mock them and wonder why Yahello ended up in the same boat as the 2 poor guys. The MC then confronts the counselor and asks what the criteria were for that decision. And the man says it was a fair decision by the school and that he should not complain about anything. Gavin then accuses him of blatantly lying and calls him shameless. The professor gets irritated and threatens to expel him from the school and tries to justify himself by saying it was fair to put a rich kid and a poor kid in the same place. The chubby friend gets furious and reveals in front of everyone that the professor tried to extort his father. Being exposed, the counselor gets irritated and calls him insolent. Yahello then shows his phone and says he has the blackmail recording to prove it. Suddenly, a guy appears and says they crossed the line, and accuses them of having no respect for the professor. The two gold diggers also butt in and defend the corrupt professor, saying the trio is ungrateful and that people like them did not even deserve an internship. The MC gets irritated with the guy and tells him to shut up. The bully then calls him a simp and says he lost his mind after Xenia dumped him and asks how he dares speak to him like that. Without thinking twice, the MC lands a heavy punch on his face. The guy gets furious and yells that he hit him first and charges at him. But Gavin blocks the strike with ease. The bully is shocked by his strength and does not understand how he got so strong. Then Gavin lands 2 slaps on his face and reminds him he told him to back off. Completely terrified, the bully tells the professor that Gavin went crazy. The MC then lands another punch on the guy and asks if he did not hear him. The counselor appears furious and orders the MC to stop and apologize. But the young man turns around and slaps the corrupt professor right in the face without mercy. The chubby friend cheers and says it was very satisfying to see that. The other students are shocked and cannot believe he hit the professor. The counselor threatens him, saying he is expelled from the internship program. But Gavin hits him with an uppercut and says he does not care. With both guys on the ground, the MC calls his friend to get out of there. Then the chubby friend gets worried and asks what will happen to Quishui. The MC then turns around and invites the girl to go with them, making the young woman blush. The two gold diggers butt in and say they will take care of her, but the professor only cares about expelling Gavin. They try to convince Quisui to go with them, saying the MC will ruin her future. But the girl says goodbye to him and tells the MC to be careful. With that, the young man tells his classmate that it is time to handle business. They arrive at a giant logistics park, and the friend explains it is the largest in the province. Yahello then asks if the plan is to take the supplies from that place, and thinks that is impossible because they would not even be able to get inside. The MC then sees a hiring sign and calls his friend to take a look. He then approaches and asks the recruiter if they are hiring. The man answers dismissively that they are only hiring women at the moment. The chubby friend panics and asks what they are going to do now. The MC gets an idea and tells his friend to go fetch Quisui to help them. Meanwhile, in the internship office, everyone was working hard. The one with glasses then tells her friend that Hunter called because Mr. Jiyoung needs a girl right now. With a wicked smile, they decide Quisui is the perfect girl for the job. The two then approach their colleague's desk and ask how she is doing. The girl, all happy, says thanks and mentions she learned things she would never see at school. The mean girl replies that it was nothing and that is what colleagues do. The purple-haired one then asks if she has ever had a boyfriend, and she says no. The one with glasses gets excited and offers to set up the collie with a boyfriend. She refuses because she just wants to work, but the two insist that a wealthy boyfriend would mean more cash. Giving her no chance to refuse, the two drag her to meet the guy, and then they arrive at a very fancy commercial building. Quisui tries to run away, but the two say they are already there and the man is a good person. They then enter a room and introduce her to an older man named Jiyoung who was waiting for them. The creepy old man with a gross smile says the girl looks very pure. The purple-haired one pushes Quisui and introduces her to her new boyfriend. The satisfied old man pays the two girls 30,000 for their help. The gold diggers say goodbye and tell him to enjoy, while the girl begs not to be left behind, but they ignore her and slam the door in her face, leaving the girl trapped in the room. The creepy old man then approaches and offers more money if she serves him well. The girl backs away and threatens him, saying she will call the police if he does not let her go. But Jong says all the security guards are his friends and will not help. Cornered, Quisui begs him to let her go because she just wanted to work in peace. The creepy old man then slaps her hand and knocks her phone to the ground. He says it is impossible to escape because no woman has ever left that room untouched. Fallen on the floor, her phone starts ringing, and it was a call from the MC. Back at the logistics park, our hero feels his phone vibrate in his pocket. He then takes out the device and sees that it is Quiki calling him. He answers the call and asks what happened. But on the other end, the creepy old man steps on the phone and smashes it to pieces. Then he tells the girl to accept her fate because he is going to make her successful. Quisui refuses and grabs a potted plant, saying she would rather pass away than give in. Across town, the MC finds it weird that the call dropped suddenly. He then realizes something bad happened to Quisui and decides to rush back there. Meanwhile, the girl defends herself and throws the pot at the creepy old man. The man gets furious at the attack and says she does not know what is good for her. Then he slaps the girl in the face and knocks her to the floor. Back at the building, the two friends are stopped by a security guard who asks what they are doing there. The chubby friend tries to use his influence, but the guard does not seem to recognize him. Out of patience, the MC shoves the security guard and tells him to get out of the way. Gavin then says Kuitui is on the 3rd floor and they are going straight there. The guard tries to stop them and says Mr. Jing cannot be disturbed right now. But the MC turns around and says he is Mr. Zhang's father and therefore does not need to wait. The security guard then asks how he can be the boss's father when he is so young. With that, the guard finally realizes something very weird is going on. He then panics and starts yelling for backup to stop the intruders. The MC finally reaches the 3rd floor. Stepping out of the elevator, Gavin comes face to face with the 2 gold diggers. They are shocked and ask what he is doing in that place. But the MC, with a serious face, asks where Kushui is. The purple-haired one says he is not an intern and has no right to ask. Gavin then repeats the question with a threatening tone. The girl tries to act tough and says this is no place for him to make a scene. Out of patience, our hero slaps the girl in the face and throws her to the ground. The one with glasses is outraged and cannot believe he dared to hit her friend. Then he lands another slap on the other gold digger, who also falls to the ground. With both of them on the floor, he asks for the 3rd time where their colleague is. Terrified, they point to a door and say Kuishui is in Mr. Zhang's room. The purple-haired one tries to warn him that the boss is well connected, but our MC does not care. He then kicks the door with all his might to break it open. Inside the room, the girl screams for help while the creepy old man tells the MC to get lost. Gavin orders the creepy old man to let the girl go immediately. Zhang, annoyed, asks if the young man knows who he is talking to. Unintimidated, the MC grabs the old man's finger and starts twisting it, making Zhang scream in pain. Desperate, the man starts yelling and calling for the building's security guards. Gavin gets irritated and lands a kick right in the middle of the creep's face. He then goes to Kusui and asks if she is okay, and the girl says he arrived just in time. At that moment, the security guards finally arrive and ask who is causing trouble. The old man gets up and orders his goons to take down the 2 intruders. The 2 gold diggers cheer and think the MC deserves a beating. Suddenly, one of the security guards flies through the air and hits the 2 girls head on. In seconds, all the guards were knocked to the floor, and the girls are shocked. The creepy boss panics on the floor and asks what else the young man wants from him. Gavin then says he will make sure he never thinks about women again, and then he lands a strike right in the old man's lower area. With Zhang completely wrecked, the MC moves to another spot and turns to the 2 gold diggers with a terrifying look. Terrified, the 2 try to shield themselves and say he cannot hit women. The MC ignores their plea and slaps the one with glasses in the face. Then he slaps the purple-haired one and warns them that he only did not cripple them because they are still useful. He then calls his friends to leave the building, leaving them completely wrecked on the floor. The gold digger tries to help the boss and says she will call the police. But the creepy old man slaps her and tells her to take him to the hospital. Then he grabs his phone and calls someone asking for help to deal with the kid. Outside, Huisui thanks the MC for his help. He says it was nothing and asks what her plans for the future are. Kuikui laments that she lost her internship and now does not know how she will get a job. The MC then offers to get a job for the girl. She gets excited about the proposal and asks if he can really get her a job. With that, the trio returns to the logistics park where it all started. The girl is surprised and asks if he really wants her to work there, and the MC confirms. She then comments that the position is for a warehouse manager and her degree is in finance. But Gavin encourages her, saying every job is valuable and she can shine anywhere. The recruiter gets impatient and asks if they are going to take the job because it is almost closing time. With that, Gavin encourages her to apply and she agrees to take the job. The MC then says goodbye and lets her know they will visit in a few days to see how she is doing. Yanyul comments that only a fool like her would accept being a guard with a finance background, but the MC says it was exactly because of her foolishness that she got the opportunity. After leaving the logistics park, Gavin says it is time to head home. Suddenly, a weapon is pointed at our MC's head, and they tell him not to move. It was Mr. Lowe's goons, and the 2 friends raise their hands in surrender. The thug warns that the 3 days are up and now their bodies belong to the boss. Yanyul asks if they are really going with the guys since he could easily defeat them, but Gavin tells him to go with them because the real show is yet to start. They then arrive at an abandoned warehouse and one of the goons tells the 2 to get out of the van. The terrified chubby friend notes that they are in an abandoned factory in the suburbs. One of the goons gets annoyed by the delay and tells them to hurry inside. But the MC turns around swiftly, and with a quick move, he disarms the guy and takes the weapon for himself. Then, without thinking twice, he fires a shot right in the middle of the goon's head, eliminating him on the spot. Seeing that, all the goons go on high alert. But he is faster and takes them all down with precise shots. The chubby friend's jaw drops, and he praises him, saying he is an elite marksman. The MC then hands a magazine of bullets to Yahello so he can defend himself if needed. He remembers that in the apocalypse he had no powers, and so he trained his aim to survive. Yahello holds the weapon all awkwardly and tells Gavin he does not know how to use that. The MC then asks if his friend plays shooting games, and Yahello proudly answers he is a pro. With that, Gavin suggests he pretend he is playing one of those games right now to feel more confident. The scene then cuts to the inside of the warehouse, where a truck is parked and several people are unloading goods. Upon seeing the truck, Yahello recognizes the Ziwei Biotech logo, wondering why one of the top 3 bio corporations in the world would be there. At that moment, the MC reveals that, in his past life, Ziwei Biotech was hailed as the savior of humanity. But he now suspects they are not as simple as they seem. Suddenly, 2 guards in military uniforms notice the duo's presence and yell out asking who is there. But our boy is faster and fires his weapon, taking down the 2 guards. Then, he approaches one of the bodies and grabs an ID badge, confirming they were indeed Ziwei Biotech employees. Inside the warehouse, a blonde woman is talking to Mr. Lowe, saying it was a pleasure doing business, and that Ziwei Biotech is very satisfied with the fresh pieces he provided. Mr. Lowe replies that the honor is his and lets her know 2 more fresh and alive pieces will arrive shortly to complete the set of 6. At that moment, he turns around and is surprised to see Gavin and Yahello approaching. With that, he introduces them to the woman as the last 2 pieces of the batch, sarcastically asking if she is pleased that they are alive and active. The Ziwei Biotech woman is then intrigued and asks Mr. Lowe why the pieces are carrying weapons. Mr. Lowe is surprised to realize they are armed. But before he could say anything, Gavin shoots him without hesitation. The shot hits Mr. Lowe squarely in the knee, who falls screaming in pain and orders his men to capture him immediately. The MC then opens fire on the goons, taking all of them down. Realizing the scene, the woman is impressed by Gavin's precise aim, while the wounded boss yells for everyone to go get them. Then, our boy tells Yahello to stay hidden and says he will take care of the remaining enemies while he keeps firing at the goons. Furious, Mr. Lowe yells that in all these years no one dared to cause trouble on his turf and orders his men to crush them since they no longer want their organs. The MC continues to eliminate the goons with insane precision. The remaining guards and the Ziwei woman are shocked by his speed, and they start shooting while screaming to stop him. But all the goons are defeated and fall right at the woman's feet. With all the enemies on the ground, Gavin and his friend approach the 2 survivors, and the woman asks what they want. Then, the MC points the weapon at them and retorts that he is the one who should be asking what they want there. Mr. Lowe is annoyed by the boldness and questions if a brat like him is qualified to know their plans. In response, our hero fires once more, hitting the trafficking boss's shoulder, and then stares at him coldly and tells him to repeat what he said because now he is listening. On his knees and holding his injured arm, Mr. Lowe tries to keep his tough act and warns that he does not scare easily, saying the kid has no idea who he is messing with. The MC then turns to Yahello and orders him to finish the boss, leaving the chubby friend completely shocked by the request. With a cold and serious look, Gavin repeats the order and insists he do as he is told. At that, Mr. Lowe seizes the chance, grabs a dropped weapon, and says they can go straight to the underworld. But Yahello is faster and, with his eyes closed, fires his weapon at the trafficking boss. In his final moments, Mr. Lowe is left completely motionless as he feels the bullet pierce his forehead. Seeing the boss's fallen body, the chubby friend panics and realizes he just ended a person's life. Gavin then turns to the Ziwei woman, saying Lowe was trash and his knowledge does not compare to hers. And the surprised woman asks how he knows her name and who he is. Our boy replies she does not need to know who he is, but if she insists, she can call him daddy. Hearing the taunt, the woman gets furious and yells at him not to be so insolent. Unfazed, the MC simply shoots her in the leg, and she falls to the ground screaming in pain from the impact. The Ziwei Biotech executive tries to threaten him, asking if he thought about the consequences of attacking her, but the MC ignores her and shoots her other leg without hesitation. Then he steps closer and says he is not interested in her useless threats. Desperate, the woman begs him not to shoot and reveals they use the human organs supplied by Lo for human experiments. Hearing that, our boy asks what kind of experiments they are conducting. She then explains they are researching human evolution and bioweapons, offering to take him there if he spares her life. With that, Gavin gets a flashback of the mantis war deity and realizes the creature was created from these experiments, which began even before the apocalypse. The woman is shocked and asks how he could know about such a top-secret project. At that, Yahello opens one of the boxes and screams in horror that it is full of human organs. Seeing the situation, the executive tries to recruit the MC, offering unimaginable wealth and power if he joins Z-Way Biotech. But the MC refuses the offer immediately and says he is not interested. In despair, the woman begs not to be eliminated and promises she can still be useful. He then questions how exactly she could help him. At that, she tries to seduce him and says she is very good with her mouth, but apparently it did not work, because Gavin shoots the woman in the head. Then he mocks her, saying she could not even stop a bullet with her mouth. Right after, Gavin searches her body and finds a VIP access card to the Z-Way Biotech headquarters. The scene cuts to another location, and Mr. Jang was furious that something happened at Z-Way Biotech and questions who would be so bold, and says that, as an investor, he has the right to know what is going on, and they cannot hide it from him. Hunter then appears to meet with him. With a vengeful look, the creepy old man orders Hunter to take care of a kid named Gavin. He confirms he already has a personal issue with the MC and promises to deliver one of his hands in a few days. Back at the mansion, Mr. Zhao reports that the main structure has been reinforced to a level that not even a tank could break through. Then he details that the interior renovation, including ventilation and groundwater, will be ready in a week, and the MC thanks him for the hard work. At that, a woman approaches and introduces herself as Auntie Lou from the neighborhood committee to welcome the new neighbor, and Gavin introduces himself politely. Right after, she invites him to join the neighborhood chat group to make communication easier. Upon accepting, the woman notices several cardboard boxes from the construction and asks if she can come in to grab them, since he probably does not need them anymore. Our boy then agrees he does not need the boxes, but explains it is not convenient for her to enter the house right now. But Auntie Lou insists and says she will go get a cart, forcing Gavin to be firmer and ask her not to delay the construction progress. The woman calls him stingy, but Gavin tries to be diplomatic and offers to bring the boxes to her house in a week. But Auntie Lou refuses and demands the boxes right now, afraid someone else will sell them before her. Completely out of patience, the MC loses his temper and yells at the woman to just get lost. Shocked by the reaction, the woman confronts him and asks why he, a brat, is swearing at people. With that, our boy threatens her directly, telling her to get lost or he will give her a good beating. Walking away, the woman complains about the disrespect of young people and threatens him, saying he will get what he deserves sooner or later. The scene then cuts to Zach, who offers $500,000 to a group of hitmen led by a man named One-Eyed Dragon. The One-Eyed Dragon says the young master is very kind and that as employees of the Vast Dragon Group, it is their duty to serve. But Zach insists it is a personal matter and his only demand is that they make Gavin Clark disappear from the world, leaving no evidence. With an evil smile, the One-Eyed Dragon introduces himself as a professional hitman and guarantees the MC will vanish without a trace that very night. While watching the hitman leave the room, he gives a serious look and says Gavin has no idea of the power behind him and that he could eliminate him with a snap of his fingers. The scene then shifts to a luxury hotel at night, and the boss of the One-Eyed Dragon asks if he is sure about this, and the goon confirms that Gavin is staying in the presidential suite of that hotel. The head of the hitmen then orders everyone to stay alert to any movement and not let the kid escape. Meanwhile, inside the suite, our MC relaxes on the couch and thinks everything has been going according to plan since he reincarnated. He reflects that in 3 days, the most important phase of the plan will start, and its success will decide everything. Suddenly, Gavin notices a noise coming from outside the room. And on the other side of the door, the One-Eyed Dragon slowly approaches the suite with a weapon in hand. Noticing the commotion, the MC concludes they must be the goons sent by Zach and decides to play their game. From the other side of the door, our boy hears the invasion plan but realizes there is more than one group of enemies approaching the place. At that, Hunter's gang arrives, and one of the goons underestimates the target, but Hunter warns him not to be careless since Gavin has already defeated and robbed another group before. Then, one of Hunter's men shows a tranquilizer gun, assuring the boss that this time they are well prepared for the mission. With that, Hunter gives the final order to his men, telling them to beat Gavin to a pulp and then cut off one of his ears to send as proof to Mr. Jiang. Inside the suite, the MC smiles and says the day is lively, deciding to have a little fun, and then turns off the room's lights. Seeing the lights go out, the one-eyed dragon assumes the target is sleeping and orders his men to storm the room immediately. On the other side, Hunter's gang also sees the lights go out and, making the same assumption, charges into the suite. The two groups of attackers then enter the dark room from opposite sides, unaware of each other's presence. Right after, the one-eyed dragon notices movement in the dark and signals his men to stop, warning there is someone ahead. The hitman then points his weapon at Hunter's silhouette and orders him to stay exactly where he is, mistaking him for his target. Hunter then talks back and says he is the one who should not move an inch. With that, the one-eyed dragon gets annoyed at the boldness and asks how the brat dares to be so arrogant with him. Hunter yells back, questioning if the other guy got the wrong script, since he was the one who was supposed to be saying that. The one-eyed dragon then calls him a big talker and guarantees he is not making it out of there alive today. Furious at the arrogance, Hunter complains that the kid acts as if he were also there to end someone's life and orders his men to eliminate him. On the other side, the one-eyed dragon also loses his patience and yells for his goons to take out the target. Then, the two groups of attackers start shooting at each other in the pitch dark, each believing they're fighting the target and his backup. One of the one-eyed dragon's goons warns the boss that the kid has backup and tells everyone to grab their weapons. At the same time, one of Hunter's men screams in panic that the target has a lot of backup and orders everyone to open fire. From a safe spot, the MC watches the chaos with a smile and thinks about letting the fools play their little games. After the intense shootout, the one-eyed dragon leans against the light switch, accidentally turning on the lights, and celebrates finally taking down all the enemies. As the lights turn on, Hunter, also injured on the floor, recognizes the hitman and asks what the one-eyed dragon is doing there. The one-eyed dragon then recognizes Hunter Walsh and asks what he is doing there, and where the brat Gavin is, to which Hunter yells he was just about to ask the same thing, because he is also there to take out the kid. At that, the two gang leaders realize they were played, and the one-eyed dragon screams in rage, concluding that Gavin probably escaped a long time ago. 3 days later, Yahello approaches the MC to deliver some news, and Gavin asks what happened. The chubby friend then reveals that Counselor Chi Chang-dong used his connections to get him expelled from school, but Gavin just laughs and says a diploma will be useless in the apocalypse. Yahello insists he cannot stand seeing the counselor's smug face, bragging in the class chat group right at that moment. The confident MC says he has a way of dealing with him. Next, we see the class chat, where Counselor Chi Chang-dong announces Gavin Clark's expulsion for disruption and assault, with the bully Wang Da celebrating and the counselor himself mocking Gavin publicly. Reading the taunting messages in the group, our boy puts on a serious face and sends a picture of a middle finger, calling Counselor Chi Chang-dong an idiot in the class group. With that, the professor gets furious at the audacity and calls him an unemployed bum, threatening him to just wait. Then, Gavin sends a message to all members, formally exposing Chi Chang-dong for having a long-term affair with Principal Lee's wife, indicating the meeting spots and surveillance footage as proof. Reading the message, Yahello is shocked by the explosive news and asks his friend how he knew all that. The MC then reveals with a smile that, in his past life, he and the counselor were trapped together in the school during the apocalypse, and Chi Chang-dong himself confessed everything when human morality collapsed. Desperate, the counselor orders the admin in the chat to dissolve the group immediately and threatens anyone who dares to leak the messages. Seeing his panic, Yahello laughs and decides to post the chat logs on the school forum right away. Right after, our boy says it is time to go because they have important business to handle, leading his chubby friend curious. At that, the MC asks if Yahello's father still does not believe him, and the friend confirms, saying he is one step away from being committed to a psychiatric hospital. Gavin then assures him that after handling their business, he will go with Yahello to see his father, and then he will finally believe everything. The scene then cuts to later, and Yahello asks what kind of big event could happen there. The MC then announces they have arrived at the location. Then, they stop in front of a house that Yahello notes is considered to belong to a wealthy family by the neighborhood standards. Suddenly, a voice from inside the house angrily complains that the booze ran out again. Inside the house, there was a drunk man sitting in a living room full of empty bottles with a young girl locked in a cage in the corner. The man then glares furiously at the caged girl, but the girl glares right back. At that, the man gets irritated by her stare, throws the empty bottle at the cage, and threatens her, saying he will gouge her eyes out if she keeps it up. He then calls her a brat who only causes losses and complains he already spent all the dowry her mother brought, deciding he will sell her family's house, and reveals with an evil smile that, before selling the house, he will sell her first, because she is worth at least enough for a few drinks. With that, the man opens the cage, grabs the girl's hair tightly, and yells at her to get out of there. He then reveals he beat her mother to her end for refusing to buy booze and threatens her with the same fate if she dares to disobey him. The girl then bites his hand. Furious at her reaction, he raises his hand to hit her and yells that today she will join her mother. But before he can strike, the front door is kicked open. In the doorway, the MC and his friend Yahello appear with serious expressions, ready for action. The man then stands up, still holding the girl, and asks who they are, to which Gavin replies with the question, "What do you think?" In a flashback, the MC reveals that that man is Funky, a despicable thug who gained the hyperspace ability and became a national hero by transporting supplies for the government at the start of the apocalypse. However, he also remembers that Funke betrayed everyone by running off with a massive load of supplies, which resulted in the demise of 1 million people from starvation and cold. And finally, the flashback shows that Funke did not have a good ending, as he ended up perishing in the claws of an ice demon, making all the supplies he stole disappear forever. Back to the present, the MC is surprised to see the girl and thinks he never heard of her in his past life. With that, Funke mistakes them for human traffickers and offers to sell the girl for an extra $100, commenting that a bit later he would have beaten her to her end. Hearing this, Yahello explodes in anger and calls him a beast, leaving Funke confused by the insult. Then, the chubby friend repeats the accusation and says he is worse than a pig or a dog. Funke gets irritated by the hypocrisy and calls Yahello a human trafficker who thinks he is high and mighty. But the MC's friend denies the accusation and says he is not someone as despicable as him. Next, Funke threatens him with a bottle and says he will crack his skull open for causing trouble. Before he could attack, Yahello fires his weapon and shoots Funke right in the leg. With that, Gavin praises his friend and says his aim is getting better every day. Lying on the floor and holding his injured leg, Funke angrily asks who the heck they are. Yahello then warns he will not let a scumbag like Funke get away with it. Suddenly, the girl takes advantage of the distraction and hits Funke's head with the broken bottle. Seeing the scene, both the MC and his friend are completely shocked by the girl's attitude. With his head bleeding, Funke gets furious and calls the girl a witch, in disbelief that she dared to strike him. Without giving him time to react, the girl attacks him again. Lying on the floor and completely battered, Funke threatens her and says he will skin her alive for daring to hit him. With a look of pure fury, the girl raises the broken bottle with both hands, ready to deliver the final blow. She then starts beating him non-stop, and while Yahello tries to intervene, the MC stops him and tells him to leave the girl alone. The MC then realizes that this is the result of overwhelming hatred, and if they stop her from venting now, her life will be ruined. With that, the girl continues the brutal attack until the broken bottle is completely covered in blood. With Funke's body on the floor, the girl stands next to him, trembling with hate. Seeing the scene, Yahello is shocked and yells that he is done for, but the MC states coldly that someone like him deserved to perish. Next, Gavin announces it is almost time and tells his friend to take the girl to clean up and calm down while he goes up to the roof. On top of the building, the MC watches a meteor shower crossing the night sky, with one of them being much larger and brighter than the others. With that, he smiles and thinks that the biggest opportunity he could get before the apocalypse has finally arrived. Then, our boy opens his arms and is completely enveloped by a golden light descending from the heavens, absorbing the meteor's power. Right after, he celebrates with a triumphant smile, yelling that he finally got what he was waiting for so much. With his new ability, he finds himself floating in a gigantic hyperspace area the size of dozens of football fields and realizes he can now stock as many supplies as he wants. Back to reality on the roof, he suddenly hears a buzzing noise coming from the street below and looks back. Looking down, the MC is surprised to see a police car parked in front of the building. Outside, a bald man in handcuffs points to the house and tells the police that is the place where Feng Ke was going to sell him a girl. With that, the lead officer gives the order for all units to prepare and raid the location. Meanwhile, inside the house, the girl is already clean and in new clothes. Yahello comments that, now that she is clean, the little sister is actually very cute. Next, the MC warns that the authorities are outside, and the chubby friend panics, remembering the body and weapons are still with them. But our boy calms him down and says that, although running away was the only option before, the story is different now. With a subtle gesture, he uses his hyperspace ability and makes Fenke's body disappear right in front of Yahello, who is shocked by the scene. Right after, the police kick the door open and yell for everyone to freeze. The lead officer then points his weapon at them and asks who Fenke is, and the bald guy says none of them is Feng Ke. The officer then turns to the two young men and asks what they are doing in that place. The MC then introduces himself as Gavin and lies, saying he is a distant cousin of the girl and just came to check on how she was doing. Then Yahello also introduces himself and says he is just a classmate who came along with his friend. The officer then kneels to talk to the little girl and, in a gentle tone, asks what her name is, and the girl replies that her name is Sixi. At that, the officer points to our hero and asks Zixi if she really knows him. The girl then confirms the MC's story and says he is her cousin since her mother had told her about him. Satisfied with the answer, the officer says goodbye and tells them to contact him immediately if they have any clues about Feng Ke. Seeing the police leave, Yahello sighs in relief and says they finally got away with it, suggesting they get out of there quickly. But when he turns to leave, the girl Sixi stops him. With that, Yahello realizes they almost forgot about Sixi and wonders what will happen to her now that Feng Ke is gone. Then, the MC turns to the girl and asks if she wants to go with them. She then nods her head and agrees to go with them. Yahello insists they take her, and Gavin agrees but warns he does not support freeloaders. Next, he tests her and asks if she knows how to make instant noodles. With an excited smile, the girl confirms she knows how to make them. The MC then agrees, and they leave together. While walking down the street, Yahello says he is hungry and suggests eating hot pot, asking Jixi if she can handle spicy food. The scene then cuts to 3 days before the apocalypse, with Gavin and Yahello walking towards a luxurious mansion, and the chubby friend confesses he is still a little scared. But our boy reassures him, saying there is nothing to fear and that they must convince his father today, no matter what. Inside the mansion, Yahello's father is reading the newspaper and yells at the two brats to stop talking nonsense and get out. Yahello then tries to convince his father, saying everything Gavin said is true and the ice apocalypse will arrive in 3 days. But the man gets irritated and tells them to leave at once so they will not bother him while he drinks his tea. At that, the MC uses his hyperspace ability and makes his teacup disappear from the table. Realizing it is gone, Yahello's father is completely confused and wonders where his tea went. Gavin reveals he was the one who took it and that this is the superpower he was talking about. The chubby friend's father, however, is not convinced and accuses him of doing magic tricks to try and fool him. Then, Gavin uses his ability again and makes the couch disappear, making Yahello's father fall to the floor. Right after, Gavin approaches him and asks if he finally believes his story now. Yahello's father refuses to believe it and accuses them of trying to scam him, stating they are too naive to manage to pull one over on him. Then, our MC activates his hyperspace ability once more, making the chubby friend's father fall to the floor. But the man is still not convinced and challenges him, saying he will only believe it if the MC manages to make everything in the room disappear. Without hesitating, Gavin uses his ability again and makes all the furniture in the room vanish in an instant, leaving the place completely empty. The chubby friend's father is left in disbelief while the MC asks with a smile if he finally believes him now. Suddenly, the man turns around and gives a hard slap on his own son's face. Completely confused, the chubby friend holds his face and asks his father why he hit him like that. The father then explains he did that to be sure he was not dreaming and finally says he believes everything now. The scene then cuts to another location and it is only 2 days until the ice apocalypse. Yahello receives a transfer notification for 760 million. With that, Yahello shows up all excited and says his father finally transferred the money as agreed. Then, the MC says they should split up, and tells his friend to focus on buying cold weather gear and other supplies for the apocalypse, while he goes to inspect the mansion and tries to buy some weapons. Next, the scene cuts to the newly renovated mansion, which now looks like a true impenetrable fortress. Right after, Mr. Zhao appears and reports that all the construction and renovation of the mansion were completed exactly according to the MC's specifications and asks if he is satisfied. With a smile on his face, our boy replies he is very satisfied and praises the boss of the renovation company for having thought of everything. Mr. Zhao then explains that this was the most difficult renovation project his company had ever done and that he personally supervised the whole process, guaranteeing that with enough supplies, one could live there until their final days. At that, the MC shakes his hand and promises to transfer the final payment as soon as possible, while Mr. Zhao says his goodbyes and gets ready to leave. But as the boss of the company was leaving, Gavin calls him one more time to give a final warning. The MC advises him not to leave the house for the next 2 days and to stock up on as much food and supplies as he can. Mr. Zhao is curious about the warning and asks if a typhoon is coming, and Gavin confirms it is a super typhoon that only happens once a century. With that, the boss of the renovation company agrees to listen to him, saying that since he has been exhausted lately, it will be a good chance to rest for a few days. Right after, several massive trucks arrive and park in front of the MC's mansion, bringing a massive amount of supplies. At that, the chubby friend appears in one of the trucks and lets him know he returned with the supplies, guaranteeing he bought the best and most expensive things he could find. Then, Gavin tells him to take everything inside the mansion so he can store all the items in his hyperspace. Outside, a woman and her grandson watch the scene, and she wonders why they bought so many things, questioning if they are going to open a supermarket at home. Seeing one of the boxes, her grandson points to a picture of candy and asks his grandma for a lollipop. The grandmother then agrees and picks him up so he can grab a lollipop from the top of the supply box. Suddenly, Yahello approaches the MC with a worried face and says he ran into a problem, leaving Gavin curious. And then, the chubby friend desperately complains that the problem is not being able to spend all the money because he has not even spent 100 million of the total yet. With that, the MC gives his friend a new mission and says he is going to give him the address of some huge granaries so he can go and buy all the grain he can find there. In a flashback, Gavin remembers that in his past life, the grain from those granaries was stolen by a group of villains, and he is determined to cut off their evil path this time. Suddenly, one of the delivery men approaches and warns that there is one last batch of crossbows they could not move because an old lady is not letting them pass. Arriving at the spot, they find Auntie Lou trying to open one of the boxes with a box cutter while her impatient grandson yells for her to hurry up because he wants to eat what is inside right now. At that, the MC appears behind her with a serious expression and asks what she is doing. The woman then turns around and, with a fake smile, says that since he bought so many things, her grandson wants a lollipop and asks if he minds. But our boy stares at her with a cold look and answers directly that yes, he does mind. Auntie Lou then gets irritated and calls him stingy, saying that taking a lollipop will serve as an apology for what happened last time, and even demands he leave all the boxes for her to take. Out of patience, Gavin tells her to just get lost and walk away. Furious, the woman gets worked up and says that, as the vice director of the neighborhood committee, she can take things from anyone's house and accuses him of ruining the neighborhood's harmony. Suddenly, her grandson climbs onto one of the boxes and celebrates managing to grab the lollipop. With that, Gavin loses his patience entirely and yells at the woman to get her grandson off the box immediately. But the spoiled kid refuses to come down, calls him a villain, and threatens to destroy him in the name of the monsters. Then, our hero rolls up his sleeves and yells for the brat to get down from there right now. But the old woman stops him and tells the MC to stay far away from her and her grandson. However, while jumping on the box, the lid gives way, and he ends up falling inside it. Unluckily for him, that box was full of crossbow bolts, and several of them end up poking his rear end. Feeling the pain from the bolts, the boy starts screaming desperately that it hurts a lot. The grandmother then runs to pick him up, while the grandson keeps crying and complaining about the pain in his rear end. Watching the scene with a satisfied smile, the MC simply says it serves them right. Furious, Auntie Lou threatens the MC, saying he hurt her grandson and will have to compensate her, swearing she will be back to settle the score. With that, she leaves with her grandson while the MC watches the scene. And from afar, his ex-girlfriend Xenia and a friend watch everything from a balcony. The redhead then questions what Gavin is doing buying so many supplies. At that, Xenia's best friend Yang Ziqing comments he is crazy to stock up on so much stuff in the heat and wonders if he is not afraid it will all spoil. The ex-girlfriend then says not to worry because Zach is going to take care of him and then invites her friend to go to the beauty salon. The scene cuts to the logistics park and it was one day until the apocalypse. There, the chubby friend celebrates that all the money was spent buying 5 entire granaries, an amount of food that would last forever. Right after, the MC tells his friend that after meeting up with Quishui, the first thing they will do is collect all the grain. When they find the girl, she happily greets Gavin and he asks how her work at the logistics park has been these past few days. Quikui then replies that the job is great and she was even promoted to warehouse supervisor, but asks how much longer she needs to stay there. The MC informs her that she can leave tomorrow and the girl gets super excited about the news, saying she is going to quit immediately. But the MC stops her and says she does not need to quit because he needs her to do one last thing for him. With that, he reveals he needs her help to get the warehouse keys because he will go to the logistics park that very night. Hearing that, the girl is shocked by the request and asks what he is thinking of doing going there in the middle of the night. The young man then says he will tell her everything later and asks her to wait for him inside the warehouse, leaving the young woman even more confused. He tells her to remember to wait for him and not to tell absolutely anyone about the plan. Quikui gets thoughtful and begins to suspect the MC's true intentions. Later, already at one of the granaries, a man informs Gavin and his friend that all the food they bought is already there for inspection. Inside the huge warehouse, our boy dismisses the boss of the place and says his people will take care of everything from there. Right after the man leaves, Yanyul cheers excitedly and says that now that they are alone, it is time to start. Then, the MC activates his hyperspace ability and prepares to collect and store all the supplies from the granary. Inside his hyperspace, the chubby friend is amazed and says it is incredible how all that food disappeared in an instant. The MC then explains that any item that enters a hyperspace will remain in the exact same state. With that, Yanyul asks if this means the flow of time in the hyperspace is 0, and Gavin admits he is not sure and will need to research that later. Suddenly, the boss of the place returns to the granary and says he came back to get something he had forgotten, but upon entering the warehouse, he is completely shocked by what he finds inside. He cannot believe his eyes and wonders if he is having hallucinations because a mountain of food simply vanished in a moment. After emptying the granaries, our boy goes to the logistics park and knocks on the door of the warehouse where Kuichiki is waiting for him. The girl then opens the door and is surprised to see him, greeting him a bit awkwardly. He then warns her that what she is about to see might be shocking, but she cannot make a sound, and the girl agrees. Then, he asks if she is ready and announces he is going to start. Quikui apparently misunderstood everything and closes her eyes, completely embarrassed. Realizing she was distracted, the MC calls her and tells her to stop spacing out and follow him. With that, Quisui snaps back to reality and runs to catch up with Gavin. They then stop in front of the giant warehouse shelves, which are completely packed with supplies. He then reaches out his hand and thinks that, after collecting this batch, the amount of resources he has hoarded will reach an astronomical figure. And then, everything simply vanishes from there. Seeing the shelves magically emptying, Quichui panics and screams, asking what on earth is going on. With the warehouse completely empty, the girl turns to Gavin and asks how the goods disappeared, and if he was the one who did that. The MC says he will explain everything later, but first they need to go collect the goods from the other warehouses. The scene then cuts to the logistics park security room. Inside the security room, Quichui gets confused and asks the MC what they are doing in that place. With that, Gavin uses his ability and with a single gesture disables all the security cameras in the logistics park at once. Right after, he says he will explain everything when they get back and calls her to finally leave the place. The scene then cuts to the MC's mansion, showing the safe haven already prepared for the night before the apocalypse. Already in the living room, little Sixi serves a cup of tea to Quishui, who thanks the little girl for her kindness. Next, the young man asks if Quisui believes the story about the apocalypse he told, and she confirms she believes him. Hearing that, Yanyul comments with a smile that she truly has unconditional trust in Gavin. Then, our boy announces to the group that the apocalypse starts tomorrow and that from that moment on, no one is allowed to leave the house anymore. but Kushui says she needs to go out to settle one last matter, and the MC allows it on the condition that she comes back before noon tomorrow. The scene then shifts to a large building, as the countdown to the ice apocalypse finally reaches 0 days. In Zach's office, the one-eyed dragon explains himself, saying they ran into another group to take out Gavin and ended up in a friendly fire situation, promising it will not happen again. With that, Zach gets annoyed and says his patience has run out with so many failures. Then, the playboy decides to handle the matter personally and grabs a weapon, calling his goons to go with him. The scene then cuts to Quikui, who is on a street feeding several stray dogs and cats as her final task before the apocalypse. She says goodbye to the animals and lets them know the apocalypse is coming, and she will not be able to feed them anymore, asking them to learn to take care of themselves. Right after, the girl says goodbye and says she hopes she can see them all again someday. At the same time, Zack and the one-eyed dragon watch her from afar, with the hitman reporting that Gavin has been staying at the mansion and it is difficult to make a move. At that, the one-eyed dragon suggests that girl must be his girlfriend and they can kidnap her to force the MC to show up. Back at the mansion, Yahello answers a call and completely panics at the news he receives. And then, he runs to the MC and warns him that the scumbag Zack captured Quikui and is demanding he go there alone to rescue her. Hearing the news, the MC gets furious and says Zack is courting his own demise and it seems he will not live to see the apocalypse. The scene then cuts to an abandoned factory. With that, Gavin arrives at the location and Zack taunts him, calling him an idiot for daring to show up there alone. But the MC tells him to cut the nonsense and demands he release Quishui first. Then, Zack orders his goons to let the girl go, and she is pushed toward Gavin. Once freed, Quishui runs desperately toward Gavin for protection. However, the playboy calls him naive and shoots at the girl. Seeing the shot coming her way, Quishui completely panics, but Gavin is faster and pulls her close to him, narrowly dodging the bullet. Seeing the scene, Zack cannot believe they managed to dodge the shot. With the girl in his arms, Gavin asks if she is okay, and Quikui warns him the enemies have weapons and tells him to run. But our boy reassures her with a smile and tells her not to be afraid, because he will take care of the rest. Next, he turns to Zack and says he intended to let him live a few more days, but now he is going to finish him off ahead of schedule. Furious, the playboy orders his men to torture him for a while and not let him perish so easily. With that, one of the goons steps forward, promising Zack he will take care of the MC. However, Gavin knocks him out by throwing him against the wall and asks if he came there to meet his end. Seeing the scene, the other goons are shocked by his strength, not understanding what happened. Right after, the one-eyed dragon orders more men to attack, and 2 of them charge at him full force. Gavin then dodges with ease. And with a quick move, he grabs the enemy's arm and neutralizes the knife with his bare hands. And then, he turns the knife against the goon and stabs him in the leg. Right after, our hero turns around and strikes the legs of the other 2 goons with the knife, knocking them to the ground while they scream in pain. Seeing the scene, Quichui is completely shocked and cannot believe Gavin is so strong. With that, Zack panics and does not understand how the MC has these skills, but the one-eyed dragon calms him down and reminds him they still have weapons. Then, the one-eyed dragon points his weapon at the MC and challenges him, saying that if he is so tough, he should try dodging that bullet. But before he could shoot, the hitman is hit by a shot to the chest and goes completely limp. With a victorious smile, Gavin reveals he also has a weapon and was faster on the draw. Seeing the one-eyed dragon's body fall to the ground, Zack panics and cannot believe what happened. Quikui is horrified to realize the MC just ended a person's life right in front of her. Completely terrified, Zack turns around and starts running to escape that place as fast as possible. But the MC fires his weapon and hits the playboy in the leg, stopping him from escaping. With him on the ground, Gavin approaches and sarcastically asks if he really thinks he can run away. Desperate, Zack tries to use his influence and yells that he is the heir to the dragon group and Gavin cannot touch him. But our boy ignores the threat and shoots his other leg without hesitation. With that, he replies coldly that he just touched him, showing he has no fear at all. Realizing he is doomed, Zack admits defeat and tells the MC to name his price. Then Gavin demands the absurd amount of 1 trillion. The playboy is completely shocked to hear that impossible demand. Right after, he gets angry and accuses the MC of joking because no one could pay 1 trillion. At that, Gavin calls him poor for not being able to pay and hits him with a kick to the face to teach him a lesson. Completely defeated, the playboy starts begging for mercy and asks the MC to stop hitting him. But Gavin ignores him and continues the beating while yelling that he warned him he would finish off that coward today. Suddenly, a police cruiser arrives at the scene and one of the officers yells for everyone to freeze and not move. The MC then grabs Zach by the collar and asks if he was the one who called the cops, and the playboy confirms with a mocking smile that he called them as a backup plan. Next, the rich kid brags, saying that now Gavin cannot eliminate him and will still spend the rest of his life in prison for public assault. Out of patience, Gavin simply shoots the playboy in his lower area. The rich kid then starts screaming in pain and cries, saying the MC crushed his balls and ruined his happiness. At that moment, the police officers approach and order the MC to stop and drop the weapon. But he explains he is not going to take Zach's life because that would be too easy. Right after, he turns to the officers and guarantees he will not be caught no matter what. With the police ordering his arrest, Gavin raises his hands in a sign of surrender, and then he starts a countdown and finishes by saying, "Time is up." At that, one of the officers pointing a weapon at him is completely shocked to realize it was snowing, and then all the officers look up and drop their jaws, seeing the snow falling, wondering how that is possible. One of them then asks what is going on and why it is snowing in the middle of summer. The scene then shows the sunny sky being overtaken by a sudden blizzard as the weather begins to change drastically. With that, the police officers start shaking violently and yell that it is too cold because the temperature is dropping rapidly. At the same time, one of the injured goons panics and asks for help upon realizing his wounds are freezing because of the extreme cold. Zach also starts freezing on the ground and begs for help, saying he is going to freeze to his end, but the MC watches him with a victorious look. With Zach and his goons freezing, the lead officer orders his men to save them. Gavin then holds Quee's hand and says it is very cold and the apocalypse has truly arrived, and hurries her along because the temperature will keep dropping. An officer tries to stop them and points a weapon at the young man, ordering him to halt. Gavin then turns around and advises him to lower the weapon because prolonged contact with the metal will ruin his hand. The officer desperately yells to throw the weapon away because his frozen hand has lost all sensation. Our hero crouches next to Zach and asks what he thinks now, reminding him he said he would never be caught. The playboy begs for help and says he is so cold and that if this keeps up his legs will freeze too. But the MC just tells him to enjoy the apocalypse and walks away with Kui. While walking through the snow, the people around panic, screaming about the natural disaster that will freeze everyone. Already wearing winter clothes, Kui says she cannot believe it all came true, and he replies it is just the beginning and the situation will only get worse. The girl then asks how long the ice apocalypse will last. With a serious expression, the young man answers that he does not know. He thinks that in his past life, the ice apocalypse had already lasted a whole year without any sign it would end when he perished. As chaos sets in, people start looting clothing stores and a man threatens to call the police, but another answers they will freeze to their end without the clothes. Kui fears the collapse of social order, and the MC adds that not only order but people's humanity will also be lost. Suddenly, two thugs with knives surround them and order them to hand over the clothes. But our hero glares at the men with a cold look and says they must have a death wish, telling the two to get lost. One of the thugs gets furious at his arrogance, and the other yells for his partner to attack him. One of them charges, but the MC knocks him out with a single clean punch. Then the MC pulls out a weapon and points it at the remaining thug's head, who gets terrified. With the weapon in hand, he sarcastically asks if he is still being arrogant. The thug panics and says he is not arrogant at all, and is actually very humble. With the situation resolved, the duo returns to the mansion, now covered in snow. Already inside the house, the chubby friend happily celebrates the snow outside while they eat a delicious hot pot. During dinner, the MC warns everyone not to open the door for just anyone from now on. On TV, an anchor announces an unknown cold wave worldwide and that the UN asks everyone to maintain order. Looking at his phone, the MC smiles and says the chat group seems pretty lively. In the neighborhood chat, the residents are in a panic and wonder what is happening. Others comment it is a natural disaster and advise everyone to stock up on supplies. But Auntie Lou joins the conversation and asks everyone to trust the government and not cause trouble by hoarding supplies. With a smile on his face, the MC continues to watch the chat on his phone. He then decides to enter the conversation and sends a message advising everyone to stock up on lots of supplies. Auntie Lou gets annoyed and calls him a brat, telling him to watch his mouth and assuring that the blizzard will end soon. But Gavin calls her an idiot. 3 days later, the snow continues to fall, and the chubby friend warns that the temperature outside has reached negative 60 degrees. Quickery gets worried because many people did not have time to stock up on food. While the two friends are worried, the MC continues to look at his phone with a smile on his face. In the group, a resident regrets selling his food, and another calls out Auntie Lou's promise. The woman answers she is also cold and will organize the committee to investigate everyone's supply reserves. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door, and the MC asks who it is. Outside, Auntie Lou and two men say the community came to bring warmth and tell him to open the door. But our hero refuses the offer and says with a smile that it is already plenty warm inside. The woman introduces herself as a committee member and insists he open up, but the young man refuses because of the cold. Furious, Auntie Lou accuses him of defying the organization and yells for him to open the door immediately. She then brags and says it is good that he knows his place and has self-awareness, ordering him to open the door. But the MC corrects her and says he is not defying the organization, but rather her, and calls her an idiot. Angry, Auntie Lou calls him a scumbag and says he is irritating her. One of the men asks what to do now, and she decides to check the other houses first because she needs supplies for her grandson. Inside the mansion, the MC thinks that in just 3 days human beings' evil nature has started to show. In Zinnia's mansion, her mother complains desperately that they only have food for 3 days and asks about Zach, but the daughter says the roads are blocked. The woman asks what they are going to do, and the redhead says not to worry because they still have money and can buy supplies. In the chat group, Zinnia announces she ran out of food and asks if anyone has some to sell, and a guy offers noodles and porridge. He says he has 3 cups of noodles and 5 cans of porridge. And Zinnia offers 50 and 80 for each, but he raises it to 100 and 200. The redhead accepts the deal and tells him to bring the supplies, noting that if anyone else wants to sell, they can contact her. Watching the conversation, the MC thinks Xenia is not dumb and knew how to buy supplies, and at that moment, Quikiwi calls him for dinner. With an evil smile, the young man thinks that in a few days, the supply sellers will regret it to their last breath. 3 days later, the snow continues to fall, and the temperature plummets. In the 2 gold diggers' house, everyone is shivering with cold because the temperature dropped to negative 60 or 70 degrees. One of them asks Hunter what they are going to do now that the food is gone. Hunter then stands up and says he cannot just wait for his end and calls everyone to go out and loot some things. One of the goons, looking at his phone, gets the purple-haired girl's attention upon seeing a guy named Gavin and asks if it is the same one they were hunting. The girl confirms it is Gavin and is shocked to learn he lives in the same community. With a wicked smile, Hunter orders them to send a message to the young man and tell him to bring food. Meanwhile, in the mansion's gym, the MC encourages Zixi to hold the position for half an hour to pass the test. The girl, all determined, answers that she is definitely going to pass. The chubby friend watches the scene and says Zixi is training so hard that he should start too. Gavin then suggests he train with Zixi and says his body cultivation technique might not be the best, but he will be ahead of everyone if he starts now. A moment later, the chubby friend is already exhausted and yells he cannot take it anymore. Lying on the floor, he complains it was too exhausting and that he needs a lobster to recover. Suddenly, the MC's phone vibrates and he gets a message. It was a message from one of Hunter's goons asking if he was Gavin and saying the boss ordered him to bring food. With a serious look, the MC stares at the message. And then he replies with just the word, "Idiot." He then realizes the timeline has changed because in his past life, Hunter and his group did not live in that community. At Hunter's house, one of the goons asks if Gavin has replied yet. The goon then warns that he replied, and Hunter asks what he said. The goon reveals Gavin called him an idiot, and he gets so furious he spits out his drink. Angry, the boss yells that the young man is asking for it and orders his men to grab their weapons to go finish Gavin. Meanwhile, at Xenia's mansion, the situation is not good either. Her mother complains the food will run out in 2 days and asks about Zach, and the redhead answers that he will come to finish off the MC. The woman then remembers that Gavin bought a lot of supplies before the apocalypse. The ex-girlfriend confirms and says she remembers dozens of trucks delivering supplies to him non-stop. The old lady wonders if he knew about the apocalypse, but the redhead thinks it is impossible because a simp like him would never know something that not even the authorities predicted. With a malicious smile, the mother suggests that if Zach cannot come soon, they should not let Gavin's supplies go to waste. The daughter agrees and tells her mother not to worry because she knows exactly how to make a simp like him bring the supplies personally. Outside the mansion, Hunter and his goons arrive armed, and one of them points to the house saying Gavin lives there. Inside the house, the chubby friend sees the intruders on the monitor and warns that there are people outside. But our hero calms him down and tells him not to panic because it is just Hunter and his group. The boss then yells at the door and orders Gavin to open it immediately. With his arms crossed, the MC replies they are not welcome and tells them all to get lost. Hunter gets irritated and threatens to break down the door, saying later it will be too late for him to beg for mercy. The MC mocks the guy's dirty mouth and says he will wash it for him. Then, he presses a button and a blast of freezing water hits the intruders, who scream from the cold. One of the goons complains he cannot move, but the boss orders them to break the door and finish the young man. But they cannot stand the cold and run away, dropping their weapons while Hunter promises Gavin will regret it. Inside, the chubby friend laughs at the scene on the monitor and celebrates that the scumbags are going to freeze to their end. 7 days after the apocalypse, the MC announces they are going out at night, but the chubby friend does not understand why. With a mysterious smile, the young man reveals it is almost time for more meteors to fall. Yahello gets all excited about the meteor shower and says they cannot miss it, but suddenly, the MC's phone vibrates. Picking up the device, he is surprised to see a message from Xenia and wonders why she is texting. The redhead asks if he is there and says she wants to talk to him. The chubby friend sees the message, grabs the phone, and yells that she is an idiot and there is nothing to talk about. In the other mansion, the girl's mother asks if Gavin has replied yet. The redhead, all confident, tells her mother not to worry because he must be happy with her message and will definitely reply. But half an hour passes and there is no response. The girl then panics and wonders why that scumbag Gavin still has not replied. At Hunter's house, everyone is shivering with cold and complaining they need more fire. The boss complains he almost froze to his end and that the weather outside is not for humans. Angrily, he promises that next time they will break Gavin's door and throw him in the snow to freeze to his end. In the other mansion, Xenia's mother asks if Gavin replied after 2 hours, and the girl answers no. The woman suggests he is still angry, and the daughter decides to send a voice message, sure he will love it. With a seductive voice, she asks what Gavin is doing and if he is doing okay with the weather change. Upon receiving the voice message, our MC is surprised, and with a smile, he decides to play along because he is bored. He then replies to the message asking if she is missing her daddy. The redhead and her mother celebrate the reply, and the girl brags that he is still the same simp as always, and the mother suggests she ask for food. But hearing the MC's reply, the girl is shocked by the question. Angry, she throws the phone on the floor and curses that scumbag Gavin. In the neighborhood group, a resident regrets having sold his food, and another blames Auntie Lou for telling them not to stock up. The woman then announces the committee will go to all houses to collect excess food to distribute it evenly. The MC realizes Auntie Lou is trying to trick everyone to steal their supplies, but doubts anyone will fall for it. The chubby friend warns that it is already completely dark outside. The MC then says it is time and tells everyone to get ready to head out. He thinks that although he is sure the meteor will fall in the complex, he does not know the exact spot, and more people increase the chances of finding it. Already outside, the group comments it is the first time they have been out since the apocalypse and that it is very cold. The MC warns that 2 meteors will fall and tells everyone to stay alert and dive as soon as they spot one. Suddenly, they see Auntie Lou and her men announcing that the committee is collecting supplies and asking for everyone's cooperation. The woman complains the food from last time ran out and her grandson is hungry again. The chubby friend gets irritated and says Auntie Lou is shameless. One of the men warns her that Gavin is just ahead. With an evil smile, the old lady tells him to go because last time he did not open the door, but now they finally caught him. The group then surrounds the MC and his friends, and Auntie Lou yells at him to stop. The young man turns around and asks if there is a problem. The woman accuses him of having hoarded several trucks of supplies in his house. With a confident smile, the MC confirms it is true. Auntie Lou celebrates that things got easy and demands he move all his supplies to the neighborhood committee. The MC asks why he should hand over his supplies, and Auntie Lou says it is a committee order and he should set an example. But the young man cuts her off and says his supplies are none of her business, and the old woman questions if he has any intention of improving. With an ironic smile, our hero asks who she is to lecture him and if it is any of her business whether he improves or not. The woman gets irritated and condemns him in the name of the committee, that the MC ignores her and calls his group to leave. Auntie Lou's men try to stop them with shovels and yell at them not to move. The woman then threatens him, telling him not to even think about leaving if he does not hand over the supplies. Suddenly, the chubby friend gets irritated and slaps Auntie Lou in the face. Lying on the ground, she yells that he dared to hit her and orders her men to arrest them. At that moment, Sixi points to the sky and yells that the meteor has arrived. The MC then yells for everyone to go get the meteor. The men try to stop them, but the MC knocks them down with a punch and tells them to get lost. The chubby friend rushes toward one of the meteors and celebrates that his big opportunity has arrived, and then he dives toward the golden light falling from the sky. Meanwhile, Sixi also spots the other meteor and gets ready to receive it. The chubby friend is shocked to realize the meteor is flying toward Zixi on its own. Then the meteor hits the girl directly and envelops her completely in a golden energy. Seeing the scene, Quishui runs over worriedly to Shishi and asks if she is okay. The young girl then stands up and tells the woman she is fine and that it seems the meteor entered her body. Suddenly, Quishui points to the sky and yells that another meteor is coming. Wasting no time, the MC tells everyone to run after the meteor. On the ground, Auntie Lou yells for them to stop and accuses them of assaulting an elderly woman and trying to flee. But the meteor hits the ground with an explosion of light that throws everyone backward. The chubby friend wonders why that meteor fell, and Gavin explains that the ones that hit the ground are special items. They then approach the crater, and Yahello points to a glowing object that looks like amber. Our MC picks up the object and identifies it as red spirit fluid, something extremely precious. He goes on to explain that the item's greatest effect is vastly increasing the cold resistance of whoever consumes it. Everyone gets excited about the discovery, and the MC says it is time to head back to the mansion. But Auntie Lou and her goons surround them and demand money and instant noodles as compensation. The young man merely glares at them with disdain and calls them idiots. One of the men says he is defying their authority, and the woman decides to collect supplies from other houses first and deal with him later. Back at the mansion, the TV reports that the ice disaster is global and the government is initiating rescue operations. Suddenly the power goes out, and the chubby friend panics seeing the TV turn off. But the MC calmly flips the switch and says it is normal because the power grid is overloaded, assuring them they have power for 100 years. Looking out the window, Quishui worries that without power survival will be harder and wonders how many people will perish. Yahello advises her not to be naive because they cannot save everyone in this apocalypse, and the girl agrees. The MC then changes the subject and asks Sixi how she is feeling after the meteor entered her body. The little girl answers with a smile that she does not feel much, just that she feels much lighter than before. Gavin is confused by the answer and asks if that is all, and she happily confirms. To test the new ability, the chubby friend tells Zishi to try the body strengthening technique Gavin taught her. Our boy watches the girl and realizes her physical constitution did not improve at all, concluding the ability has nothing to do with physical strength. Given that, he asks if any new memories appeared in her mind, like sword techniques or fireball spells, but she says no. Finding it all very strange, Gavin decides they will have to figure out little by little what ability the little girl awakened. With that settled, he gathers the whole group and tells them to divide the spirit fluid so they will not worry about the cold outside anymore. Yahello then takes his share and drinks the reddish liquid all at once. He feels a warm current run through his body, and the MC explains that while it will not block the cold completely, they will not freeze to their end even if they stand naked outside for a while. Meanwhile, in the other mansion, Xenia's mother complains she is freezing without heating since the power went out. The redhead tries to calm her mother, saying the power should not take long to come back, but the woman panics thinking they will not make it if Zack does not arrive soon. Xenia gets furious and guarantees Zack is almost recovered, and as soon as he arrives, the first thing they will do is finish off that scumbag Gavin. Suddenly, Xenia's mother notices something wrong out the window, and the redhead asks what happened. The woman then points to Gavin's house and asks why his lights are still on while everyone else is in the dark. With that, the lady realizes the young man was very well prepared and had his own power generation equipment. The redhead flips out in anger and cannot believe her ex-boyfriend is living so well in the middle of the apocalypse. The mother then tells her daughter to contact Gavin again to see what they can get out of him. The girl then sends a message in a seductive tone asking what he is up to since the power went out for everyone. The scene then shows the MC's mansion fully lit and heated in the middle of the blizzard. Our MC receives the message and with a smile realizes Xenia is in trouble and came looking for him again. For fun, he decides to take a picture of the table full of food to show how well he is living. Upon getting the notification, the two get excited to see what Gavin replied. The young man then sends the picture of the feast and says he was bored and decided to prepare a table full of food. The two's mouths water seeing lobster, steak, and ribs in the photo, and the mother comments she would perish happy with one bite. Seeing that, the older woman tells her daughter to get food from Gavin no matter what. The girl then sends another message asking how he still has so much food if they already ate everything they had. Suddenly the phone beeps again, and the two celebrate that he replied once more. But the MC simply replies that he gets it and is going to eat now. End of conversation. Angry, the redhead throws the phone on the floor and yells that Gavin is doing it on purpose just to irritate her. Lying on the couch, our hero looks at his phone and thinks the neighbors are also starting to lose their patience. In the neighborhood group, a man says he is starving and is going out to look for food. But another warns him the snow is too deep. Lying comfortably, the MC thinks going out now is a one-way ticket because the temperature outside reaches -90 degrees. The man then decides to go alone, and the others wish him luck, while a fortune teller advises him not to risk it. Meanwhile, at Hunter's house, the goons complain the food is gone and they will not last much longer. The two gold diggers beg the boss to come up with a plan and find a way to get food because they cannot wait for their end. Hunter stands up and says it is too dangerous to leave the neighborhood right now. With an evil smile, he reveals his plan to rob Auntie Lou first, since she has been collecting supplies from the committee. In her house, the woman feeds her grandson with the food she got from other houses. The selfish boy tells his grandma not to eat because the food is all his. The old lady agrees and encourages him to eat a little more to get full. Suddenly, loud knocking on the door interrupts dinner, and the woman gets irritated and asks who is knocking. On the other side of the door, Hunter and his armed goons order her to open the door immediately. The woman is terrified and wonders why that thug Hunter is at her door. Outside, the gang boss threatens to break down the door if she does not open it right away. Desperate, Auntie Lou tells her grandson to hide all the food they got. Out of patience, Hunter and his men kick the door with all their might and invade the house. Upon entering, one of the goons points to the food, and the grandson tries to protect the supplies with his arms wide open. With an evil smile, the gang boss tells his men to grab whatever they find. The old lady tries to stop them and says she is the head of the neighborhood committee and that this is illegal. But Hunter mocks her and reminds her she just stole that food from the other residents. One of the goons shoves the woman aside while carrying a box of supplies. Furious, Auntie Lou screams she will fight all of them to protect the food. Another goon throws her to the ground and tells the old woman to get lost. The spoiled grandson tries to stop one of the men and yells that the food is all his and he will destroy them in the name of the light. The goon gets annoyed with the brat and slaps him in the face. The grandmother screams desperately, seeing her beloved grandson being attacked right in front of her. After taking the food, Hunter decides they cannot leave empty-handed and orders them to take the wooden furniture to use as firewood, and his men praise his genius idea. On the cold floor, Auntie Lou yells at the thugs while hugging her grandson and accuses them of trying to end the boy's life. Elsewhere, Xenia's mother advises her not to be angry and to try to act cute because men are weaker when a woman acts like that. The girl then sends a message to the MC saying it has been a long time and she misses him, asking if she can come see him. To her surprise, Gavin simply replies with an "oak." With a victorious smile, the redhead celebrates with her mother and says they will finally eat well, bragging that the ex is still a simp who does whatever she wants. With that, the two go to the young man's mansion, and the girl knocks on the door telling him to open up because it is her. But inside, the MC just ignores the knock and keeps playing his video game while asking who is at the door. Outside, Xenia identifies herself all excitedly. The young man then fakes surprise and asks what she is doing there. Shivering with cold, the redhead says she came to see him and begs him to open the door because she is freezing. Without taking his eyes off the game, the MC asks why he should open the door and who told them to go there. Annoyed, the girl yells that he was the one who told her to come because he replied, "Ugh," to her message. With a mocking smile, the young man says she must have read it wrong and tells her to check the message again. Confused, the redhead grabs her phone to check the chat and is shocked to see the full reply was, "Okay, my butt." Furious, Xenia asks if Gavin is messing with her and if he is going to open the door. With a mocking smile, the MC simply answers that he will not open it. Irritated, the redhead kicks the door with all her strength and swears she will get payback and make him meet a terrible end. Her mother gets desperate because they cannot even enter the house and wonders how they will get their revenge. The girl then decides to expose Gavin to Auntie Lou and the neighborhood committee for hoarding supplies. At Auntie Lou's house, the grandson complains he is cold and hungry, and the grandmother assures him nothing will happen to him. The old lady promises she will find something for her grandson to eat immediately. Suddenly, her phone starts ringing with a call from Xenia. The redhead reports Gavin for hoarding supplies and asks Auntie Lou to do justice and punish him. In the neighborhood group, a resident asks if the guy who went out looking for food has returned, and the fortune teller says the situation must be bad because he vanished. The man reappears and says he almost perished out there and cannot feel one of his legs anymore, and another resident concludes it is better to starve than go out. Lying in bed, our hero watches the conversation and thinks the true test of humanity has finally arrived. He then notices a new message in the group. Auntie Lou tags Gavin and asks what he is going to do about his stockpile of supplies, and the other residents are surprised and ask for medicine. The MC realizes Auntie Lou is trying to turn the whole complex against him to force him to submit and hand over his supplies. In the neighborhood group, Auntie Lou pressures him to hand over his supplies and accuses him of having no compassion and not behaving like a college student, and ends up convincing the neighbors who were also in need. While reading the messages, the MC remembers that in his past life, his kindness was exploited and his food stolen, and swears not to make the same mistake. Furious at the young man's silence, the woman threatens him, saying she will throw paint on his door and curse him every day, and calls on all residents to go to Gavin's house and take his supplies by force. In the mansion's kitchen, the chubby friend finishes a call with his father and says he got it, and they do not need to worry. Our hero approaches with a cup of coffee and asks what is going on. The friend explains his father just called and said chaos has broken out outside, with looting and robberies everywhere. The MC drinks his coffee calmly and says it is normal and the situation will only get more chaotic. The chubby friend worries about his parents and fears their house will be invaded even with the supplies they stocked up, and Gavin asks if he wants to go see them. The friend confirms and says that now that he drank the spirit fluid, the cold outside is no longer a threat to him. With a smile, the young man agrees to go with him and says he has a snowmobile that will make the trip much easier. Suddenly knocks on the door interrupt the conversation and they look at each other with a serious expression. Through the security cameras, they see Auntie Lou and a large group of residents, and the MC comments she is quite persistent. Outside, the residents are surprised to see Gavin's house has power, and one points to the steam coming from the roof, indicating it is very warm inside. Auntie Lou, with a greedy smile, comments that Gavin must have a lot of supplies, and if he contributes a little, everyone will be saved. Seeing that, the MC says those people are there for food, but they can't keep dreaming. Outside, Auntie Lou demands Gavin hand over his supplies for distribution, saying it is a unanimous decision from all the residents. Through the security camera, the young man mocks them and asks if that little group represents all the residents now. The woman gets worked up and says, as the committee director, she does represent them and demands he open the door. With a defiant smile, the MC refuses to open and tells them to come in themselves if they are capable. Auntie Lou says she knew he would not open it and reveals they brought a locksmith, ordering Old Man Lee to pick the lock. The other residents celebrate the idea and are already dreaming of a warm room and delicious food. The locksmith tries to pick the door but cannot, saying he has never seen a lock like that before and it is a special multi-layer lock. Inside, the MC laughs at the idiots and thinks his door's security is comparable to a bank vault. Auntie Lou gets annoyed with the delay, and the locksmith tries again using another tool, but it is no use. Tired of playing, the MC tells Yahello to turn on the power to the door, and his friend obeys right away. The locksmith then gets a violent electric shock and falls to the ground. Furious, Auntie Lou yells that Gavin electrified the door. Not giving up, The woman orders Plan B and tells everyone to break down the door with a wooden log. She then yells with all her might for them to break down the door once and for all. With a crash, the residents slam the log against the door but cannot break it. Through the security camera, the chubby friend complains they are too shameless and do not understand the supplies are not theirs. The MC comments that the apocalypse is a test of character, and some prefer to perish rather than do bad things, while others prefer to eliminate to survive. Outside, one of the residents falls to the ground exhausted and says he cannot take it anymore. All the others also fall down tired, and one of them reveals the door is made of a special alloy and they will not be able to break it. With a malicious smile, our hero says they are tired, and now it is their turn to give something disgusting to the intruders. The chubby friend excitedly presses a button and says, "Here comes the surprise." Auntie Lou yells at them not to rest and to keep breaking the door because she refuses to believe they cannot break it. Suddenly, a spray of brown, gross liquid shoots from above and hits the woman directly. All the residents are hit and wonder what that gross stuff is. Furious, Auntie Lou yells at Gavin and asks how he dares throw water on them. But the others realize it is not water because it stinks a lot, and one complains it is a mixture of human waste. Watching the scene through the camera, the MC laughs and tells the old idiot to keep cursing because they have a lot more waste to throw. Cold and stinking, the residents give up and leave, cursing Auntie Lou for convincing them to go there. At Hunter's house, one of the gold diggers reports that Auntie Lou's attack failed and everyone came back soaked in waste. Hunter comments Gavin has some tricks up his sleeve and his defenses are very good, and the gold digger with glasses says this proves he has a large stockpile of supplies. The other gold digger agrees and says they cannot leave him alone, and if they manage to break into his house, the food he has will be enough for everyone to live without worries. The group boss says he has a history with the young man and will definitely finish him off, and they just need to prepare in advance. In the other mansion, Xenia's mother despairs and says Auntie Lou's group failed and she is freezing. The girl then decides to call Zach again. The playboy answers the phone irritated and asks why she is calling again, and the redhead begs him to come get her because she is very cold. But Zach tells her to get lost and says he cannot even save himself right now, hanging up on her. The mother panics and wonders if Zach abandoned them, but the daughter says he must be in trouble too. The old lady despairs thinking they are going to perish and decides to go out to find food. But the redhead stops her and says they will perish even faster if they go out. Desperate, the girl wonders what they can do since they cannot just wait for their end. The mother then suggests she keep begging Gavin because he is the only one who can save them now. The scene then returns to the MC's mansion. He gets a message from Xenia admitting she was wrong and asking what she needs to do for him to forgive her. With an evil smile, the young man replies simply for her to call him daddy. Reading the message, Xenia gets furious and wonders what got into Gavin. Her mother complains the young man is going too far with the jokes. The older woman then encourages her daughter to call him daddy because she has nothing to lose. She yells that there are no more buts, and dignity is worth nothing when it comes to surviving. With a determined look, the redhead decides to play along to trick him and teach him a lesson as soon as she gets in the house. She then sends the message, "Daddy," and the MC receives it with a satisfied smile. The two celebrate thinking Gavin will finally let them in, but he replies mockingly that he does not have a rebellious daughter like her. Furious, the girl flips out and starts calling the MC every name in the book. Meanwhile, Hunter gathers his men and one of them confirms everything is ready and they will definitely catch the young man this time. The boss then gives the order and the group of thugs heads out for the attack. They then walk toward the MC's mansion. The chubby friend sees the intruders through the security camera and warns that Hunter and his gang are back. With a confident smile, our hero says this time they will make them regret it, so they do not think they are easy to push around. Outside, the thug's boss yells and gives Gavin one chance to open the door. The MC simply calls him an idiot with a mocking smile. Outside, Hunter warns that the young man's chance is gone and orders his men to stack the firewood at the door. With the firewood in place, the thug's boss orders his goons to throw gasoline and burn the young man to his end. The chubby friend despairs and says the scumbags are trying to burn the house, but the MC calms him down and says the mansion is made of fireproof materials. With an evil smile, Hunter tosses a lighter on the firewood and tells Gavin to wait to be burned alive. A large bonfire forms in front of the mansion's door. After a while, one of the goons comments there is no movement inside. Another goon realizes the house is made of fireproof materials and the fire did no damage. Furious, Hunter tells his men to get the impact drill to make a hole in the wall. One of the goons grabs the drill excitedly and says he will do the job. With the drill in hand, he starts drilling the wall and the boss encourages him to keep going. Little Sixi gets scared and warns there are bad men breaking the wall, but the MC reassures her and says they will not be able to get in. With a determined smile, our hero announces it is hunting time and calls Yahello to start. The two friends grab bows and arrows, and the chubby friend comments it is his first time using it, and the MC says it will not be a problem hitting targets at close range. He thinks that with the apocalypse, many supernatural things will appear and some will make firearms useless, so it is necessary to practice with a bow and arrow. The goon finally manages to break through the wall, and Hunter asks how he did that. But the man says something is wrong, and the boss asks what happened. He then reveals he cannot drill deeper because there is something inside the wall. Looking through the hole, they discover it is a steel plate and realize Gavin reinforced the entire house. Furious, Hunter wonders how they will get in if it is impossible to break the wall. Suddenly, an arrow hits one of the goons and knocks him to the ground. Then several arrows start flying and hit the other men, and the boss yells for everyone to take cover. Angry, Hunter swears that if he does not finish Gavin, he will change his name. He is then hit by an arrow and screams in pain. The goons help him escape and they run back home. The ones left behind beg not to be abandoned and ask to be saved. Watching the scene, the MC comments 3 were left behind and the rest fled. The chubby friend asks what they will do with the 3 injured, but the MC reassures him and says without medicine, they will not last long. The injured goons beg not to be finished off and say Hunter forced them. But the MC just ignores them and calls his friend to head back inside the mansion. The chubby friend asks why the MC let them get away. Gavin then explains that Hunter would never come back for his men and that in the freezing cold, they would freeze to their end in about 10 minutes. With a smile, Yahello understands the plan and says since the thug's boss was also injured, he would not return and that would cause a fight within his group. Meanwhile, one of the abandoned goons feels relieved and comments that luckily the young man did not finish them off. But another thug panics when he realizes they are badly hurt in the cold and will not last long, and tells his buddy to call Hunter. Desperate, the man calls the boss and begs him to come back to save them, and on the other line, Hunter asks where they are. The goon replies they are still in front of Gavin's house, but the call is cut off immediately. The other thug asks what the boss said, and the guy with the phone answers, shocked that Hunter hung up on his face. One of the goons gets furious realizing the boss abandoned them to freeze to their end. He then explodes in anger and curses Hunter for leaving him to perish after risking his life for him. One of the men panics and says their only hope of surviving now is begging for Gavin's help. With that, the 3 turn to the mansion and start screaming for help, promising to become the MC's servants if he saves them. Back at Hunter's house, the boss screams in pain and orders someone to pull the arrow out of his back. One of his men pulls the arrow out all at once, and the boss screams in pain. Seeing the scene, the 2 gold diggers comment Hunter failed once again and admit they misjudged Gavin completely. Lying on the couch in severe pain, Hunter yells at the 2 girls to stop staring and go boil water to clean his wound. The 2 then try to calm the boss and tell him not to worry because they will take care of everything. In the kitchen, the one with glasses asks her friend what they are going to do because it is obvious Hunter is no match for Gavin. The purple-haired one agrees and says they need a plan B and cannot put all their hopes on the boss. Desperate, the other gold digger says there is no other way because they have no food and are stuck without being able to leave. The purple-haired one then realizes the safest place in the neighborhood right now is Gavin's mansion. The one with glasses is hesitant and remembers they have a bad history with the young man, but her friend reassures her saying if they apologize, he would not let them perish. Meanwhile, the MC and his friend get ready to leave with 2 snowmobiles, and the chubby friend celebrates how that makes getting around in the snow much easier. With that, our hero puts on his helmet and says they are going to check on Yahello's parents. From her mansion's window, Xenia's mother sees the 2 leaving and points out in shock that Gavin has a snowmobile and is leaving. Furious, the redhead swears she will take everything the MC has and finish him once and for all. On the snowmobiles, the 2 friends travel through the snow, which is already over 6 feet deep. Suddenly, the MC spots a supermarket and calls his friend to take a look. The 2 then enter the place, but discover the supermarket has been completely looted and nothing is left. Our MC explains that is normal because it has been almost a month since the apocalypse and everyone's food is gone. Suddenly, the chubby friend yells for him to watch out. With a quick reflex, the young man turns around and lands a kick on the guy who tried to attack him from behind. Yahello pulls out a weapon and points it at the man on the floor, calling him a scumbag for trying a sneak attack. The man on the floor begs them not to shoot and says he had no choice because he has a family to feed. The chubby friend is surprised to hear the word family. The man then calls his family to come out of hiding, and a pregnant woman with a child appears. The woman and her 2 young children join the man. He explains his wife is pregnant and they had already eaten all the food in the place and had nothing else to do. Gavin then questions why he attacked instead of simply asking for help. The man is speechless, not knowing what to answer the MC. The woman and children kneel and beg to be let go in peace. Suddenly, our hero calls Yahello and tells him to come with him. While walking down one of the aisles, the chubby friend asks what that weird smell is. Our boy then answers seriously that it is the smell of blood, and his friend gets scared. Arriving at the spot, the chubby friend is completely horrified to see 2 bloody skeletons on the floor. But our hero looks at the scene without any emotion and says it was exactly what he thought, and the chubby friend cannot take it and starts throwing up. After recovering, Yahello gets furious and swears he will eliminate those scumbags. The MC then asks how he intends to get payback and if he will eliminate the pregnant woman and the children too, but his friend yells he will only finish the man. With that, Gavin explains that if he does that, the woman and the 2 children will have no chance of surviving alone. Desperate, the chubby friend punches the MC's shoulder and yells that family of animals survived by feeding on their own kind. Our boy then explains that in the apocalypse, there will always be people who cross the line, and things like that will become increasingly common. With that, the 2 leave the supermarket behind and continue their journey to Yahello's parents' house. Upon arriving, our hero notices the front gate is open, and the chubby friend panics and starts yelling for his parents. Inside, a group of thugs celebrates finding all the supplies and says the old folks hid a lot of stuff. The group boss, all excited, celebrates the successful loot and promises an extra chicken leg for everyone on the way back. One of the goons then asks the boss what they should do with the 2 old folks. With an evil smile, the thug's boss orders his men to eliminate all of them. The spiky-haired goon then points his weapon at Yahello's parents and gets ready to shoot. Suddenly, the chubby friend bursts into the house and yells desperately for the thug to stop. Seeing her son, the chubby friend's mother screams desperately and tells him to run away from that place. But the blonde thug does not care and shoots the woman without any mercy. Seeing the scene, Yahello panics and screams his mother's name, completely desperate. To protect his son, the chubby friend's father throws himself at the blonde thug and tells the boy to run. Annoyed, the goon shoots the old man several times at point-blank range. The MC's friend screams in despair seeing his parents lying on the floor. The blonde thug then points his weapon at the chubby friend and says he will send the whole family to the other side. But before he could shoot, the MC appears and cuts the blonde thug's hand off. The blonde goon screams in pain seeing his hand flying through the air. Watching the scene, the other thugs turn to the MC and ask who he is. With a cold look, our hero answers. He is the Reaper and drives his knife into the blonde guy's chest. The thug's boss gets furious and orders his goons to eliminate the intruder. 2 of the goons then charge at the MC yelling he will meet his end. But our boy is faster and, with a quick move, he disarms the guy. The thug's boss and the other goon are shocked by the MC's speed. Seeing the MC's arrival, one of the blue-haired goons panics and yells for everyone to run. But our hero is much faster and lands a fatal strike on the thug's back. With the space covered in blood, the young man threatens the survivors and says whoever moves will become dog food. Seeing that, the thug's boss and the other goon drop to their knees and beg to be spared. The chubby friend ignores the thugs and runs desperately to his parents' side. To his surprise, his mother was still breathing and says she is glad he is okay. But the chubby friend's father was in critical condition and with his last words warns him to be careful with a guy named Lee Santen from Mang Village. Right after, Yahello's 2 parents do not make it and leave him completely devastated. Full of hate, the chubby friend turns to the MC and tells him to leave the thugs to him. He then grabs a knife and charges at the thug's boss, but the MC stops him. The thug's boss panics and begs not to be eliminated, saying he was just following orders. But the chubby friend does not care and grabs him by the collar, telling him to go to the underworld. However, the MC stops him once more from finishing off the thug. With a cold look, our hero asks who sent them, and the man reveals it was the boss of Mang Village. The young man gets thoughtful upon hearing the name of Mang Village's boss. With the village boss's image in mind, Yahello reveals his father previously sponsored Mang Village and that Lee Santian even worked for him. The thug then brags that Mang Village is the greatest power in the region and no one can mess with them. Our MC mocks him and says he can keep dreaming of being let go. The goon gets angry and threatens the young man, saying Mang Village will find him and will not let him escape. Not caring about the threats, Gavin tears the thug's clothes. The man is shocked and wonders what the MC is doing. Our hero says finishing him off would be too easy and a guy like him deserves to freeze slowly to his end. The thug begs for mercy, but the young man ignores him and with a kick sends the scumbag flying. Outside, the man begs for a quick end, but it was already too late. And in a few seconds, he freezes completely in the middle of the snow. With the thug out of the way, Yahello turns to the MC and says he wants payback and they need to go to Mang Village. They then arrive at Mang Village and find several bodies hanging at the entrance. The MC comments that the people of Mang Village built a fortress there. The chubby friend gets angry and says those people have committed countless crimes. Suddenly, two guys appear on snowmobiles and approach the duo. The MC and his friend are surprised to see that, and the young man comments that Mang Village also has snowmobiles. The guy with a mohawk then asks who they are. Our boy answers they came as guests, but the thug does not believe it. With a smile, Gavin reveals the one who invited them was the village boss, Lee Santian. The two get annoyed by the lie and reveal the boss was invited by Z-Way Biotech and is not even there, and then they pull out their weapons. But the two are hit by precise shots to the head. Our MC then appears with the weapon in hand and takes out the two without hesitating. Suddenly, a voice yells from the top of the fortress and asks who is there. Seeing the bodies, the guards get furious and wonder where the brat who dares to cause trouble in Mang Village came from. Yahello then suggests they head back for now and come up with a new plan, and the MC agrees with the idea. With that, the two flee on the snowmobiles while the thugs shoot and yell at them not to run. The duo then returns to the mansion where a group of people is waiting outside. It was Hunter's abandoned goons who celebrate the young man's return because they were freezing. The MC then wonders why there are so many people there. The men ask if the MC got anything from his trip and if he brought supplies from the supermarket. Annoyed, the young man tells everyone to get out of the way. One of the men says Gavin went to look for supplies for them and asks if he found anything. The MC asks who said he went to look for supplies for them. The same man then asks what he went to do out there, if he was not looking for food for the group. Our hero says it is none of their business and shoves him aside. The man gets angry and accuses him of having no respect for his elders, calling him rude. A woman then asks if he found supplies and says they are about to starve, but the MC answers he found nothing. The woman does not believe it and demands he let her search him. Out of patience, our hero pushes her away and tells her to get lost. The chubby friend then speaks up and tells everyone they did not find anything and did not go out looking for them. One of the women complains they will not last long without food, and another guy says they will take the snowmobiles and look on their own. The MC mocks their boldness and says they are very shameless. The woman then asks Gavin to give them food. Since everyone says he stocked a lot of stuff at home, all the others agree and demand he share the supplies, threatening to stay at his door until he gives in. Out of patience, the MC says he cannot be bothered by them and calls his friend to go inside the mansion. But a woman grabs him and screams he cannot leave without leaving food for the group. Irritated, the young man shoves her hard and throws her to the ground. Lying in the snow, the woman makes a scene and accuses him of assaulting a woman, threatening to curse him every day if he does not give her 10 packs of noodles. The other residents butt in and say Gavin went too far by hitting a woman. The shameless woman then demands the MC apologize and help her inside the house to recover. With a dark expression, our hero reaches his hand out to the woman. With a victorious smile, the woman gets ready to accept his help and already demands a delicious meal. But instead of helping her, the MC slaps her right in the middle of her face. The woman is shocked by his attitude and asks what he is doing. With an evil smile, the young man says she accused him of hitting her, and now he is just fulfilling her wish. Then he starts giving a beating to the woman lying on the ground. She begs him to stop hitting, but the MC does not care at all. Gavin then asks if she thinks he will stop just because she asked. Desperate, the woman cries out for help to the other residents while her face gets all swollen from taking such a beating. Seeing the scene, one of the men yells out, accusing Gavin of intentional assault, and calls everyone to take him down together. A guy in a beanie grabs our hero's arm, asking what kind of man bullies a woman. Looking over his shoulder, the MC replies that he will just have to bully him too then. Wasting no time, the guy lands a straight punch to the busybody's face, making a mess on the snow. With the guys down, Gavin goes to town on them, landing several blows to the heads of two guys at the same time. The startled woman widens her eyes, left completely speechless by that level of brutality. One of the guys getting beat up tries to shield himself and begs the MC to stop hitting him, admitting he was in the wrong. Gavin then maintains an intimidating stance, warning them that they asked for it and tells everyone to get lost. The little group runs away through the snow while one of them yells from the back that the guy has no conscience and would leave them to freeze. Meanwhile, in the condo's group chat, the neighbors start complaining that he has way too many supplies and refuses to share with anyone. Sitting comfortably on the couch, our hero reads the messages, wondering if these people are delusional. To make matters worse, a lawyer suggests he chip in his snowmobiles for everyone to use, and the MC just sends a text asking if he owes them anything. Right away, the folks reply in the group chat, outraged, concluding that he truly does not care if they make it or not. With an ironic smirk, the guy asks himself if he is their dad or something to have to care about that. Furious at his attitude, a resident proposes kicking the kid out of the community and splitting his supplies among everyone. Relaxed on the sofa, he remembers that in his past life, this bunch of moral bankrupts caused a lot of trouble, and decides he is going to teach them a lesson. Suddenly, his phone starts ringing on the table. The guy answers the call from an unknown number, wanting to know who it is. On the other end of the line, a male voice asks if he is Gavin, and the MC confirms. The man then questions if the kid knows who he's talking to, but the answer is a simple no. With arrogance, he introduces himself as Lee Santian from Mang Village, betting that the hero must be shaking in his boots right now. Finding the situation amusing, Gavin mocks him, saying he did not expect him to be such a blockhead. The villain lifts his weights, annoyed, and demands that he repeat what he just said. Very calmly, the MC tells Lee Santian to stop playing tough and get straight to the point if he has something to say. With a sinister smile, the crime boss acknowledges that the kid has guts for daring to eliminate his men. Resting his head on his hand, the guy asks in an ironic tone if the thug called just to compliment him. Out of patience, the gang leader yells into the phone, warning the brat that it is game over for him for messing with his crew. Our hero's gaze darkens instantly, and he swears that the villain's fate belongs to him for taking out his friend's parents. The thug then asks where the punk is hiding, and the guy promptly gives the address of the whole family village on the north side of the city. Standing in the middle of the makeshift gym, Lee Santian tells him to wait there because he is going to make him kneel and call him grandpa. Hanging up the phone, Gavin gives a smirk and warns that if the guy does not show up, he will be considered his grandson. On the other side of the city, the muscular man shouts, calling his henchmen. The men gather around, asking the boss what is going on and if they should bring their hardware. The leader orders them to grab their gear and call more people because the two kids are armed. Meanwhile, at the mansion, the MC calls Yahello to head out, and the chubby guy asks where they are going. The hero puts on his jacket and announces that they are going to raid Lee Santian's lair. A short time later, the two are already riding their snowmobiles at full speed through the snow. During the ride, the guy asks his friend if that building up ahead used to be a police station. Yahello confirms the information, adding that it was a municipal-level facility. Focused on the goal, Gavin decides they're going in there to look for some firepower. Leaving the vehicles behind, they walk through the deep snow toward the entrance of the ice-covered building. At the main door, the MC raises his leg and shatters the glass with a heavy kick. Inside, they find the officers completely frozen at their stations. Faced with the tragic scene, the hero comments that the disaster happened way too fast, and the government did not have time to react. After walking down the hallways, they finally arrive in front of a large reinforced door that marks the armory. The chubby guy tries to push the metal doors with all his might, but lets him know they will not budge. Calmly, Gavin tells his friend to step back and leave the job to him. Using his piece, the MC fires several shots at the locks of the reinforced door. The door finally gives way, revealing a massive stockpile of boxes stacked to the ceiling. Amazed by the discovery, Yahello celebrates, saying they hit the jackpot with so much firepower. Taking a close look at a sniper rifle, they realize they definitely came to the right place. Inside one of the boxes, the chubby guy finds a bunch of detonators and gets the hero's attention. The guy approves of the find, assuring him that it will be very useful and tells his friend to grab everything. Using his spatial ability, Gavin clears out the entire armory in seconds, and Yahello says they can take off now. Suddenly, a voice echoes down the hall calling for some boss, and the MC realizes someone is approaching. With a confident smile, he deduces that apparently they were not the only ones looking to score some gear in that place. A group of shady-looking men appears at the precinct entrance, illuminated by the light from outside. One of the henchmen points into the armory and warns Brother How that there are people inside. The purple-haired leader gives a wicked smile, commenting that it looks like someone beat them to the punch. But shock takes over one of the subordinates, who yells in panic, warning that the armory is completely empty. Suspicious, Brother How glares at the two kids, asking them directly if they were the ones who took the hardware. With his arms wide open in a sign of innocence, the MC asks ironically if they look like they carried anything out. One of the thugs agrees that they do not look like they took anything and says he is going to frisk them now just to be sure. Without hesitating for a single second, Gavin denies the request, warning them that there is no way he is letting himself be searched. The purple-haired leader arrogantly introduces himself and warns that they can even leave if they do not have any weapons, but he is not in the habit of letting anyone walk away without a pat-down. One of the goons pokes the hero's chest, questioning why he is acting so cocky if he did not even find a weapon, and threatens to beat him to a pulp. Before the guy could even blink, the MC lands a brutal kick, sending the thug flying. Furious at the audacity, the leader orders his men to attack, commanding them to take the two out so they can drag them back and roast them. The criminals charge down the hallway, ready to attack the duo. But our hero simply pulls out a handgun, coldly commenting that he seems to have been way too nice to them. Seeing the weapon pointed at them, the thugs step back in fear, yelling that the kid lied about not packing heat. With a deadly glare, the guy warns that he is now going to send all of them to meet their maker. One of the henchmen panics and raises his hands, begging him not to do anything rash and asking to talk it out. Without an ounce of pity, Gavin pulls the trigger and lands a direct hit on the guy's head, dropping him instantly to the floor. He blows the smoke coming from the barrel of the gun, calling the thug shameless, and declares he is done playing Mr. Nice Guy. Shocked by the guy's coldness, one of the henchmen yells, questioning if he actually has the guts to take someone's life. As an answer, the hero raises his weapon and lands a decisive shot right to the forehead of the one who dared to doubt him. Seeing their buddies dropping, the other thugs go into absolute panic and yell for everyone to run. But the escape attempt is useless as the MC fires mercilessly at the back of each of their heads. With only one henchman left standing, the guy falls to his knees trembling, begging for his wife and swearing he surrenders. With obvious contempt, Gavin just calls him a fool. Right after, he fires without mercy and takes out the last member of the group. Stepping over the fallen bodies on the ground, the hero puts his weapon away and simply tells his friend to keep moving forward. Far away from there, a convoy of snowmobiles pushes through the blizzard under strict orders not to leave a single soul breathing at the Hu family village. Riding one of the sleds, Boss Lee Santian hears a henchman ask if they should not spare the pretty women, but he declares that Mang Village does not carry dead weight and orders them to get rid of them all after they are done having fun. With cruel grins, the subordinates assure him they know the rules and that no one else has the guts to go toe-to-toe with them. The villainous leader agrees with a sadistic smile and tells them to step on it since the target is still about 2 or 3 hours away. Meanwhile, Gavin and Yahello watch the vehicles fading into the horizon, and the chubby guy comments that clashing head-on with them would be almost impossible. However, the MC spots the perfect opportunity and suggests raiding the enemy base now that most of their fighting force is gone. Yahello weighs the situation, looking at the high walls, and points out that the main gates are locked. Unfazed by the defenses, the MC pulls out a bundle of dynamite, revealing his explosive plan. The large gate of the enemy base remains heavily guarded by the faction sentries. Suddenly, the roar of an engine catches the attention of the guards, who watch a vehicle approaching at high speed. Confused, one of the thugs squints and wonders how the snowmobile is driving itself. Resting on top of the runaway vehicle is a massive amount of explosives wired together. Despair washes over the guard as he finally recognizes the dynamite and widens his eyes in panic. A colossal explosion destroys the main gate, launching pieces of concrete in all directions. Blown away by the blast's impact, the henchmen hit the ground, shouting furiously to find out who dared to attack Mang Village. Through the cloud of smoke and snow, Gavin and Yahello rev their engines, storming into the enemy base. Spotting the duo, One of the survivors recognizes them and yells, ordering everyone to open fire on them immediately. Keeping control of the sled with one hand, the hero draws his pistol without slowing down. With lethal precision, he fires and takes out 2 guards before they could even return fire. The duo speeds through the courtyard, now decorated with the fallen criminals. The noise draws armed reinforcements who emerge from the corridors, threatening to end the invaders. But the MC gives the enemies no chance and drops them all with a rapid string of shots. Seeing the sweep, a henchman tries to retreat, shouting to inform the village boss. Before taking another step, the thug takes a bullet to the leg, falling to his knees in the snow. Crawling in pain, the guy tries to save himself by lying that he is just a good citizen and not part of the criminal crew. Ignoring the lame excuse, the MC aims his weapon and demands to know where the base's supply warehouses are located. Pale with fear, the prisoner shakily points to a large structure at the back of the courtyard, revealing the exact location of the stash. Thanking him for the tip with some lead, Gavin finishes the turncoat off with a direct hit. Right after, they enter the gigantic warehouse that houses endless rows of shelves packed with boxes. Impressed by the amount of stuff, Yahello comments on how much the faction boss must have looted out there, while his friend celebrates, saying it all belongs to them now. Activating his dimensional power, the hero makes a circular motion and starts vacuuming up the entire contents of the warehouse. With the job done, the duo hops on their vehicles and leaves the ransacked base at top speed. The chubby guy laughs, picturing the enemy leader's fury when he finds out he lost everything. Gavin smiles calculatingly, stating that this was just an introductory lesson and that he plans to weaken the gang little by little before finishing the job. Far away from there, the Mang village gang reaches their destination, only to find the other settlement completely buried in snow with 0 signs of life. Putting 2 and 2 together, Lee Santian grits his teeth as he realizes they walked into a trap, right as his phone starts to ring. Furious at the wasted time, the criminal answers the call aggressively. On the other end of the line, the news hits the villain, who widens his eyes in absolute shock. Without missing a beat, he turns to his men and orders everyone to head back to base immediately. Later on, the ruins of the fortress gate stand as proof of the intense raid they endured. Staring at the wreckage in his own home, Lee Santian is paralyzed with disbelief, wondering how that could have happened. The humiliation turns into a blind rage, and the criminal swears he will make the kids suffer the absolute worst fate. Bellowing, he demands that his men track down and find the invaders' hideout in 3 days tops. Changing the scene, our MC's imposing reinforced mansion remains secure against the relentless blizzard. Resting comfortably on the sofa, Gavin gets a text from an old female classmate asking to meet up. On the phone screen, he had already replied that he had no time, but the fortress's doorbell suddenly starts to ring. Intrigued by the unexpected visit, he looks up from the screen to check who is out there. Checking the security monitor, Yahello announces in surprise that the gold diggers who tried to scam them actually showed up at the gate. Shivering from the cold and the snow, the purple-haired girl calls out the hero's name, begging him to open the door. Stepping out into the property's inner courtyard, the guy glares at the 2 former scammers with a less than friendly look, questioning the reason for their visit. Trying to use her charm, the purple-haired girl forces a smile, claiming they just came to see him. But the seduction attempt fails miserably when the MC asks in an icy tone if they are done looking. Turning his back on the duo, the hero declares the visit is over and tells the 2 of them to get off his porch. Desperate seeing her only lifeline walking away, the purple-haired girl reaches out, crying for attention. Trying to appeal to their old friendship, she uses the excuse that since they are former classmates and the closest neighbors, they should help each other out. With an ironic smirk from someone who saw this coming, the MC turns his head, asking exactly what use they would be to him. The 2 shrink back charmingly, offering themselves up and promising they are willing to do whatever it takes to serve him in any way imaginable. Pretending to accept the offer, Gavin plays along, declaring that from that moment on, he will be the master and the 2 of them will be his pet dogs. Relieved with the deal, the purple-haired girl celebrates the submission and suggests they head inside quickly before they freeze out there. The guy points firmly in the opposite direction, killing the mood by ordering the 2 to leave the neighborhood right now to look for food for him. Faced with their confused expressions, the hero crosses his arms, questioning if the dogs have some sort of problem obeying the master's first command. The girl with glasses panics, arguing that a blizzard like that would surely turn them into popsicles if they tried to leave the area. With zero patience for whining, the MC backhands the girl right across the face, demanding respect for his authority. Holding her red face, the young woman with glasses is left speechless as she realizes the rich, nice guy they knew is long gone. The other one tries to step in, asking him to stop with the joke since he knows very well it is impossible to find food in that frozen wasteland. Once again, Gavin responds harshly, slapping the second gold digger across the face and yelling at them to obey already. With her cheek burning, the purple-haired girl widens her eyes, still trying to process if he is really serious about sending them out to freeze. Calling the two of them useless trash, Gavin questions what makes them think they are worthy of being his dogs if they cannot even scavenge for food. Giving no room for further argument, the MC turns his back and tells the girls to beat it. Furious, the purple-haired girl curses at the hero, stating that if they had a way to find supplies, they would never have come to him. The friend with glasses agrees, whining that they took 2 slaps for nothing and completely underestimated how hard it is to deal with that guy. Panicking, the young woman with glasses wonders what they are going to do now, since Hunter's group is also out of food and will not last much longer. With their arms crossed, the purple-haired one decides they still cannot ditch the gang leader because they need his protection and suggests they head back. On their way back through the condo lobby, the two end up bumping into Hunter and his goons, who ask where they had been. Quickly, the purple-haired girl approaches the leader, letting him know they went after Gavin. With an outraged expression, she makes up a story that the jerk hurt the leader earlier, and since the two of them could not stand for that, they went to give him a piece of their minds. Annoyed at the mention of his enemy, the gang leader frowns and asks what the MC said. To keep up the lie, the young woman claims the guy was arrogant and unreasonable when they tried to ask for compensation for the damages caused to the gang. The girl with glasses plays along, holding her face and begging the leader to stand up for them, saying Gavin is a monster who would have assaulted them if they had not run away. Confident, Hunter tells them not to worry, assuring them that he and that kid are mortal enemies and that he will definitely finish him off. Determined, the leader turns around, calling his henchmen to follow him, while one of them asks where they are headed. Suddenly, the scene shifts drastically to a destroyed landscape, where an old man with a monocle confronts a scientist asking about the fatal weakness their target was supposed to have. The old man with the monocle laments that tonight the Fan family bet everything they had on that operation. Watching the blue flame warrior crushing the soldiers, he yells that everything went down the drain due to a miscalculation and demands accountability from Supervisor Shao. The scientist in the lab coat tries to defend himself, arguing that theoretically nothing should have gone wrong when injecting an abnormal flame into the enemy's core. Bleeding and frustrated, Supervisor Shao fires back, saying that as an expert, the scientist should know this is not a math problem with an exact answer. Pointing a finger, the supervisor demands that the researcher immediately figure out the reason for the failure and find a way to fix the mess. Sweating bullets, the scientist puts the pieces together and mutters that the theory was not wrong unless the root of it all was flawed from the very beginning. While analyzing the opponent's aura, he realizes the guy is not a complete monster and possesses an incredibly stable genetic sequence. The blue flame warrior focuses his glowing gaze, deducing that they kidnapped Lin Chu just to figure out the weakness of his power. Shocked, the scientist falls backward upon realizing the enemy can easily intercept his telepathy. The warrior notices he can also faintly sense Lin Chi's power channeling underground, trying to communicate something although the connection is fuzzy. Shrugging it off, he glares at the big shots running away and asks if that whole conspiracy really thought he would be an easy target. Supervisor Shao carries the injured young man and barks orders to prep a replacement arm while calling for an immediate retreat from the area. Calm, the blue warrior explains that the original technique was just a baseline for him because when it comes to cultivation talent, he has the experience of 2 lifetimes. With a confident smile, he reveals that what he cultivates has always been his own perfected version of the power. Massive bursts of blue energy sweep across the battlefield as the warrior's destructive force swallows the surrounding soldiers. Shooting through the air, the warrior warns the escapees that there was only one thing they were not entirely wrong about. Cloaked in energy, he confirms that he is indeed not a complete monster and is seeking a different path of evolution. With his eye glowing intensely, he thanks them for the sonic waves from earlier, which helped confirm his path is right. A sonic boom echoes as the warrior accelerates violently, cutting through the air like a blue comet straight at his enemies. While fleeing with his injured nephew, Supervisor Shao breathes a sigh of relief for having used every trick in the book to put some serious distance between them. The panting scientist agrees that they should have shaken him off by now. However, the sound of an approaching jet makes the wounded youth look back, terrified by the chaser's absurd speed. A blast of blue flames hits the scientist squarely, sending him flying forward with a muffled scream. Dragged across the ground, the researcher groans in pain, realizing the flames have invaded his body and he has already lost all control. Faced with the hopeless situation, the injured young man begs his uncle to leave him behind and make a run for it. After landing firmly on the asphalt, the blue warrior declares there is nowhere left to run, and they can finally wrap this up. Supervisor Xiao grits his teeth and glares at the enemy through his monocle, completely cornered. In another part of the facility, the scientist crawls in panic, wondering what they will do now that the young master's arm is ready. But they are out of time. A violent explosion blows open the heavy metal door of the lab right behind the researcher. A monstrous, pale-skinned woman with horns steps out, making the scientist realize the factory's safeguards could not hold her back. Seeing the creature, the scientist falls into despair, muttering that the Fawn family is doomed and he needs to bail so he does not lose his life. Before he can slide away, the monster's boot stomps down heavily next to his hand, warning him not to even think about running. Laying on the floor, the injured youth shouts furiously, asking what the researcher is trying to pull and forbidding him from leaving. Coughing up red, the boy demands at the top of his lungs that the scientist perform the surgery and reattach his arm right now. Completely out of patience, the researcher shoots back that the arm kept in the incubator was not prepped for that kid. The monstrous woman leans over the scientist with her eyes glowing pink, making the man apologize frantically. Cowering in fear, he begs for his safety, promising he will reattach her arm right on the spot if she lets him walk. The creature stares at him coldly and asks in a threatening tone if he honestly thinks she will let him leave in one piece after the surgery. To toy with the man's fear, she suggests he take a gamble and return her severed limb right away. Despite the thick tension in the room, the wounded boy weakly insists the scientist start the procedure already. Noticing the kid's presence, the monster cracks a macabre smile, realizing humans have two arms, and decides she will just harvest the best parts from them. Outside, Supervisor Xiao and his goons find themselves completely surrounded by dozens of soldiers controlled by the blue flames. In a quick read of the situation, the old man realizes he needs time to put out the fire inside his body, but his disposable soldiers are not tough enough to hold off the enemy. Pulling a syringe from his pocket, he concludes that to have a fighting chance, he has no choice but to use that risky serum. With his eyes locked on the needle, the supervisor makes the tough call to burn out his own lifespan to make sure his nephew can escape safely. Holding the syringe firmly, Supervisor Xiao declares to himself that the Fan family bloodline must never be erased from history. With a gaze full of desperation and resolve, he repeats that the legacy must live on, whatever it takes. The reflection in his monocle hides the sheer cruelty of the choice the old man just made to save his own skin. Without warning, the supervisor jams the needle with the highly dangerous serum straight into his injured nephew's back, claiming that only the boy's survival will secure the family's rise. As the energy scorches the young man's body, the old man orders this final spark to buy a few precious minutes for his uncle to run. Cutting through the battle tension, the scene suddenly shifts back to the front of the reinforced mansion, where dozens of residents are banging on the gates, demanding the MC let them in. Holding the security tablet, Yahello warns in panic that more than half the neighborhood decided to show up all at once to protest. Keeping an eye on the monitor with total indifference, the hero shrugs and writes off the mob as just a bunch of disorganized troublemakers. Outside, one of the residents points a finger at the camera, calling the homeowner a selfish jerk and demanding he share the hoarded food with all the neighbors. Boiling with rage hearing the insults, the chubby guy rolls up his sleeves and offers to step outside to teach those freeloaders a lesson. Strapped with a massive bazooka, Gavin smiles grimly and tells his buddy there is absolutely no need to step out into the cold. In the middle of the crowd, another angry neighbor yells, calling the MC a coward for just hiding behind his walls. The group keeps up the blackmail, stating that his supplies will run out eventually, and if he does not share now, he will no longer be welcome to live in the community. Far from the chaos, one of the henchmen asks Hunter if he really thinks the mansion's owner will cave to the pressure and step out. With an evil grin, the gang leader praises his own master plan. Because if the target comes out, they will finish him off, but if he hides, the fury of the cowardly neighbors will take care of tearing him down. Pointing a finger at the fortress, the resident calls Gavin heartless trash, claiming there's no difference between him and a monster for just watching everyone perish. Suddenly, a loud, dry crack echoes through the area. The man takes a direct hit and the crowd goes into a panic, unable to grasp how their neighbor's head just popped out of nowhere. Posted at the window, the MC admires his weapon, praising the accuracy and punch of that sniper rifle. Down below, sheer panic takes over as they realize the shot came from the owner of the mansion. Through the scope, the hero warns that his patience has run out and tells that rabble to get off his lawn immediately. A white-bearded older man gets furious and asks if the kid realizes that taking a life is an unforgivable crime. Trying to keep the group's morale up, a man encourages the others not to be afraid, swearing it is impossible for the shooter to take down everyone at once. He steps up to the front and rallies the neighbors for a massive rush, arguing that they are all going to starve anyway. Without a second thought, Gavin pulls the trigger again, landing a shot right on the bold protester's forehead. Faced with another drop, the neighborhood concludes the shooter has completely lost his marbles and starts sprinting to save their own hides. As they flee, the trespassers curse about the amount of firepower the kid is packing, realizing that dealing with him is going to be way tougher than they thought. Watching the failure from afar, Hunter clenches his fists in annoyance and decides to fall back, for now, to cook up a new plan. Far from the mansion, heavy footsteps crunch the snow, signaling the arrival of a shady group in the Jinbi community. The crew leader, smoking casually, tells his goons that this rich neighborhood is definitely loaded with supplies and orders everyone to move in. Holding a shovel, the invader dictates that the search starts in that area, ordering a clean sweep of every house looking for grub. The prime target ends up being one of the nicer houses on the block. Inside the living room, Auntie Lou tries to comfort her grandson, asking why he is so quiet. The spoiled brat puts on a crying face and whines that he is starving. Showing off an ear of corn, the old woman smiles proudly for having hidden food from Hunter's gang. However, the boy rejects the food in disgust, claiming not even pigs would eat that and demands meat right away. His grandma tries to be patient and asks her grandson to put something in his stomach, promising to get him meat the next day. Losing his temper, the brat starts kicking his legs on the couch, throwing a tantrum because he wants his meal right now. With a sadistic look, he suggests that if there is no meat in the house, the old hag should carve a piece of her own flesh to feed him. Spooked by the kid's words, she tries to play it off as a joke, making an excuse that her meat is tough and urges him to be a good boy. Suddenly, a loud crash fills the room as the front door is kicked wide open. The home invaders storm the place, and one of the thugs spots the corn in the woman's hand, alerting his boss. Hugging her grandson protectively, the resident demands to know who those strangers are. The crew boss introduces himself, revealing they came from the neighboring Eugene community with the sole purpose of scoring some grub. Wasting no time, one of the punks lands a straight punch to the old lady's gut, demanding she hand everything over. Catching her breath, the lady points a finger in outrage, asking if the law means nothing anymore for them to just break in and rob people like that. The smoker laughs at her innocence and explains that order collapsed a long time ago, and now muscle makes the rules. Grabbed by the collar, the woman cries, swearing she has nothing else hidden besides that corn. To force her hand, the leader grabs the boy and presses a sickle blade against his neck, threatening to end him if the old lady does not cooperate. Desperate seeing her grandson in danger, she reaches out her hands, telling the boy to stay calm. The thug cuts the chatter and tells her to fetch the supplies, while the elderly woman begs for the kid's safety, offering everything she owns. Moments later, the invaders stare at a measly little bag on the table, asking if that is really it. Shielding the child, the resident confirms that their stash ran dry a long time ago. Holding up the small bag of grains, the blonde punk complains about the slim pickings, swearing that this upscale neighborhood would be bursting with supplies. Frustrated with the pathetic haul, the leader orders the crew to hit the next house. Sitting on the couch, reality finally sinks in for the woman as she mutters that the world has descended into utter chaos. Killing the dramatic mood, the brat goes back to whining about being hungry, refusing to accept the excuse that there is nothing left to eat. He confronts his own grandmother, screaming and asking if he plans to let him starve. The old woman's face darkens into a sickly expression as she swears she will never let her precious grandson go hungry and that she will secure his survival. The scene then cuts back to the exterior of the MC's majestic and unshakable mansion. Inside another house down the block, the Eugene gang corners a couple, giving them the choice to hand over their lives or their food. Holding his wife tight, the man cries out of fear, explaining that they have been looted multiple times and have absolutely nothing left. Assessing the situation, the leader of the invaders coldly declares that in that case, they leave him no choice. A massive axe is raised in the air, making the resident panic and ask what he intends to do. Introducing himself as Ju Daji, the criminal states that he never leaves empty-handed and will collect a piece of him as payment. A brutal swing chops off the man's limb, making him let out an agonizing scream while a red mess splatters everywhere. In the condo's group chat, panic runs wild as neighbors report the atrocities and mutilations caused by the home invaders. Following the chat on their phones, Hunter's crew catches wind of the invasion, and one of the henchmen declares they cannot let those outsiders steal the food from their turf. Keeping his boss posture, Hunter asks if they figured out where those guys came from yet. The blue-haired subordinate explains they are blue-collar workers who got stuck after the apocalypse and ended up taking over the neighboring community. A red-haired guy points out that the rival gang must be dangerous because risking the freezing cold to switch neighborhoods is practically a one-way ticket. The henchman asks what the plan is, and the leader decides he will need to greet the uninvited guests since they crashed his territory. Trying to get up from the couch, Hunter lets out a loud groan of pain. His men immediately rush to support him, asking if he is all right. Holding his bandaged thigh, the criminal curses Gavin out, complaining that the wound from their last clash still has not healed properly. Over at the gold digger's apartment, the friend with glasses updates Xenia about the robbers kicking in doors around the neighborhood. Biting her nails nervously, she complains that Hunter's threat was bad enough, and now a new group showed up to make things even worse. The ex-girlfriend's mom tries to find a way out, asking if dropping rich boy Zach's name might intimidate the invaders. Crossing her arms in annoyance, the redhead crushes their hopes, revealing the trust fund kid is neck deep in his own problems and will take days to show up. The two women start panicking, and the friend suggests their only option left is to find a hiding spot. Trembling with fear, the older lady cries, asking where on earth they could possibly stash themselves to escape that brutality. Sick of the screaming, Xenia turns her back and says she is heading to the bedroom to shoot the MC another text. Attention turns back to the reinforced fortress surrounded by the blizzard. Looking at his phone, Yahello asks his buddy if they should step in and clear out the invaders from the neighboring community. Chilled out about the whole thing, the hero concludes that sooner or later, the looters will come knocking on his door, so there is no rush to make a move. At that exact moment, the screen of the guy's device lights up with a notification ping. Glancing at the screen, Gavin rolls his eyes and wonders what new trick his ex-girlfriend is trying to pull. Opening the picture, he sees the girl lying on her bed wearing a short nightgown, shocked by the gold digger's audacity to send him spicy pics. The image caption features a little heart and suggestively asks if he liked what he saw. Our MC cracks a wicked smirk and quickly types back, confirming he really enjoyed the view. The redhead sends a very direct message, suggesting that if he liked the view, he just needs to open his door and she will let him stare as long as he wants. Convinced of her own tactics, she gives a little smirk, thinking Gavin finally dropped the tough guy act and fell for her charms. On the other side of the screen, the MC calmly replies that there is no need to open the door since good things are meant to be shared with everyone. He even mocks her, saying that if he kept that beauty all to himself, the other condo residents would just end up calling him selfish all over again. Reading the unexpected reply, the girl freezes in shock, not quite getting what he meant by the word shared. Wasting no time, Gavin gives his phone screen a light tap. With one simple swipe, he forwards the spicy photo straight to the neighborhood's main homeowners group chat. Seconds later, Xenia's mom comes running into the bedroom, demanding to know why on earth the MC just posted her daughter's spicy pics in the condo chat. The app screen displays the photo for all the residents, along with a sarcastic message from Gavin asking if this was some sort of local beauty contest. The neighbors show no mercy and immediately start gossiping, pointing out that the girl is trying to trade her own body for survival supplies. Completely enraged, the redhead calls her ex-boyfriend, screaming at the top of her lungs that he lost his mind for leaking her private pics like that. Leaning comfortably on his sofa and sipping his water, the MC just mocks her, asking if she suddenly decided she wanted her dignity back. Shaking with anger, the girl yells into the phone that she will never speak to him again for the rest of her life. Taking another sip, Gavin shuts it down with a smile, pointing out that her promise of silence was all he ever really wanted. Defeated, the gold digger throws herself on the bed, cursing the guy out, while her mom notes in frustration that they severely underestimated how cold the MC could be. The mood of despair ramps up when violent banging starts echoing from right outside the door, demanding they open up immediately. Xenia's mom falls into total panic, realizing the muggers from the neighboring community finally made it to their apartment. Out in the hallway, one of the criminals holds a pickaxe, threatening to rip the door off its hinges if they refuse to cooperate the easy way. Sweating bullets, the older lady begs for a fix, terrified the invaders might end up chopping their arms off as punishment for not having any food. Clenching her fists with a grim expression, the redhead decides there is no hiding from this imminent home invasion anymore. Out in the hall, a blonde henchman remarks to his boss that the resident family clearly does not know what is good for them. The crew boss, with a scowl, gives his men the green light to bust the door down by force. However, right before the swing can splinter the wood, the lock clicks, and the door is unlatched from the inside. Rocking a pink coat, Xenia shows up in the doorway with an incredibly forced smile, apologizing for the wait and inviting the thugs in for some tea. Surprised by the welcome, the blonde guy nudges the boss and whispers that the girl is quite the looker. Sporting a wicked grin, the leader questions if the young woman is not scared at all standing face to face with dangerous looters. Playing the helpless victim, she sighs, claiming she was just forced by the circumstances and that it is all the cruel world's fault. That submissive attitude goes over great with the blonde henchman, who takes those words as music to his ears. Finding the whole setup very interesting, the boss orders his men inside the apartment to see what they can scrape together. Once in the living room, the redhead tries to turn on the charm, serving hot drinks and calling the invader boss Big Brother Drew. Coming back from tossing the rooms, the blonde guy tells the boss he only found one measly pack of instant ramen and nothing else. Sweating nervously, the girl tries to explain herself, arguing that she and her mom have been starving for days with absolutely zero food. Crossing his arms aggressively, Ju lays down the gang's rule, stating that a lack of food gets paid back by chopping off an arm. Desperate to save her own skin, Xenia lies, saying her boyfriend is Zack, heir to the vast dragon group, and that he will be sending over supplies any minute. The mention of that massive company makes the leader's eyes go wide in a sudden pause. Thinking she got the upper hand, the redhead smiles confidently, reminding them that the group is one of the biggest corporations in the entire province. However, the plan backfires completely when Ju reveals with a deadly glare that he and his guys happen to be the blue-collar workers from that exact same corporation. Grabbing the girl by the collar aggressively, he admits he was not planning on doing anything crazy, but since she is the trust fund kid's girl, he insists on getting a taste. Completely terrified, the gold digger tries to pry the man's hands off, begging him not to do it. Ruthless, the boss gives her only two cruel choices. She can either lose an arm or become his woman right then and there. Seeing her daughter in trouble, the mom tries to step in, arguing hysterically that Xenia is a college student and cannot be treated like this. For an answer, the invader lands a brutal backhand to the older lady's face, throwing her body violently to the floor. Glaring at the fallen woman, he asks, with sheer hatred, if the two high-class ladies are looking down on a grunt worker like him. Fearing for her own safety, the redhead throws her hands up in surrender, swearing her mom did not mean to offend him like that. When asked for her final choice, the girl does not hesitate to toss her morals in the trash, praising the criminal as a hero and saying she fell in love with him at first sight. Pleased with the submission, Ju lets out a loud laugh and drags the young woman to the bedroom, bragging that he finally gets to try out a college girl. While being pulled by the arm, Xenia casts one last frightened look back, leaving her mother tossed on the living room floor. The older lady stays on the ground in a state of shock, watching her daughter get hauled off to the bed in her own apartment. Taking the cue, one of the henchmen steps up to the elderly woman with ulterior motives, making her stutter as she asks what they are planning to do. Chuckling wickedly, the blonde guy mentions to his buddies that the older lady still has a certain charm despite her advanced age. With zero shame, the thugs hoist the woman into the air, deciding they will not waste the opportunity since the boss got the main course and they will take the leftovers. The older woman screams in panic, thrashing her arms and calling the men starved animals while demanding to be let go at once. The echoes of filthy laughter leak to the next bedroom door, sealing the cruel fate of the opportunistic family. A few minutes later, the mood settles and the gang leader lights up a cigarette, totally relaxed after taking advantage of the girl. Covered only by a white sheet, the redhead fakes being amazed, praising the guy's performance and saying it felt like a roller coaster ride. Ju falls for the manipulation and laughs out loud, swearing that as long as she sticks with him, she will live large in the apocalypse. Putting her winter clothes back on, Xenia puts on a curious tone, asking about the actual amount of supplies the gang managed to score so far. Taking a drag from his smoke, he grumbles in frustration that he expected to find mansions loaded with food, but the upscale area turned out to be worse than the slums they came from. Resting her arms on the criminal's shoulders, the girl whispers seductively that the problem is he just robbed the wrong people. With a look full of malice and revenge, she reveals Gavin's existence, claiming the MC hoarded enough food to sustain the whole community without breaking a sweat. The reveal catches the invader boss off guard, making him ask if this infinite stash story is actually legit. Backing up every word, the redhead winks and tosses in the tempting detail that the target even has a snowmobile parked in the garage. Fueled by greed, the man throws on his heavy coat quickly, declaring they need to go roll the MC this very second. Already outside the condo complex, Xenia points straight at the reinforced bunker, marking the exact spot of the frozen treasure. Riding high, Ju orders his crew to march toward the mansion, ready to smash through any hurdle. Suddenly, a deep voice echoes down the street, ordering the blue-collar boss to freeze right where he is. Spinning around annoyed, the invader questions who the heck those guys are and what they want getting in his way. Hunter steps forward with a scowl, revealing his identity as the owner of that turf. Not giving a damn about the picking order, Ju snaps back, asking if crossing borders is such a big deal that they want to settle it with fists. Losing his patience, a local gang leader pulls his piece and tells his rival to do his homework before assuming he is some sort of pushover. Fired up by the challenge, the grunt rallies his boys for a brawl, yelling at them not to embarrass him in front of his new lady. Just as the two armed squads are about to clash, Xenia dashes into the middle of the battlefield with her arms wide open, demanding they stand down. Sweating anxiously, she looks straight at Hunter, warning him that there is no reason to fight each other when they share a common goal. Confused by the interruption, Gavin's old enemy recognizes the girl and demands to know what she means by an alliance. Gesturing expressively, she tries to unite the criminal factions, reminding them that they both took a beating from the MC, and the smartest move would be to team up to take him down and split the stash. Intrigued by the pitch, Hunter smirks, agreeing that since the ultimate endgame is crushing Gavin, he can let the rival gang crash in the neighborhood for a few days. The scene cuts to the outside of the reinforced mansion, still engulfed by the thick blizzard. The local leader decides to give the rookie a heads up, warning him that the MC is no easy target since he is packing heavy heat and has already caused his group massive losses. Instead of thanking him for the tip, Ju Daji mocks his rival right to his face, calling him useless and demanding he show some respect. With a superior grin, the Grutz mocks the fact that Hunter is scared of a mere college boy and tells him to watch how you really drop a punk. Inside the comfort of the bunker, Yaniel points at the security screen, letting his buddy know the invaders finally rolled up. Checking the cameras, our MC breaks into a dark smile and concludes the setup is perfect since they can use them as live targets for shooting practice. With a quick motion, 3 handguns are slid across the surface of a table. The hero hands out the firearms, ordering the chubby guy, Quisu, and Shixi to grab one each. The little girl holds the pistol with her eyes sparkling with excitement, commenting that she has wanted to know what shooting feels like for a long time. Holding her piece hesitantly, the college girl looks at Gavin and asks nervously if they are really going to take lives. The MC stares at her dead serious and explains that this is a harsh apocalypse, and humanity will not be restoring normal order anytime soon. Soaking in the harsh reality, the young woman changes her posture and grips the handgun firmly, confirming she understands what has to be done. Outside, Judaji points an axe at the house and shouts, demanding the homeowner open the door, claiming the title of the community's new boss. Hanging back from the front lines, Hunter watches it all with a twisted smile, thinking that squad of idiots is just asking for a one-way ticket by getting so close to the entrance. Prepping his shotgun, the chubby guy calls out to the girls, letting them know it is time to shoot some sitting ducks. On the mansion's porch, the blonde goon tells the boss the residents are not going to open up, calling them ungrateful fools who do not know what is good for them. Ticked off by the audacity, Judaji gets a running start and charges toward the entrance, yelling that he is going to settle this with a kick. He lands a violent flying kick on the metal surface and curses the MC out, asking if the brat thinks he can hide in there forever. The impact completely backfires, and the boss staggers back, clutching his own leg, howling in pain like he just shattered his bone. Regaining his footing, the criminal inspects the structure closely and concludes that the iron door was heavily reinforced. Despite the roadblock, he is not discouraged and states that this will not stop them, ordering his subordinates to use tools to pry it open. The blonde guy steps up with a crowbar, but before he can apply any pressure, the lock clicks, unlocking itself. Figuring the homeowner finally gave up, Ju flashes a cocky grin, saying they got scared of his reputation. To top off his arrogance, he brags, claiming that if they had taken one more second, he would have chopped everyone inside to pieces. The heavy reinforced door slowly swings open, revealing Yanyo holding his shotgun flanked by the two armed girls. The invaders look up, and the blonde henchman quickly notices the women, excitedly pointing out to the boss that they are extremely pretty. Seeing the scene, Xenia bites her own finger, consumed by deep hatred, as she realizes Gavin took all those people in, but left her to freeze in the snow, wishing for his ultimate downfall. Staring at the guy at the top of the stairs, Judaji asks straight up if he is the target they are looking for, but the chubby guy calmly denies it. The gang boss loses his temper and demands to know what on earth he is doing there, but the hero's best friend just smiles, pointing his weapon and answering that he came to deal with those idiots.